2, 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Coffees with Toffees podcast. I will be your host, Flub, and this is the Brewmaster's Draft. A show where we generally talk a little bit about Dota and a little bit about beer, but we're actually going to be talking, it's a special...
Shit, do I have to get a beer?
You don't necessarily have to. I was going to stay sharp this whole time, so if you want to, you're more than welcome to go grab a beer real quick. So as you guys have heard already, and you guys can see the man himself, we have a different co-host with me tonight. We have Fafnir, and he's a long friend of mine, a savant in Dota as well, someone who I know and trust, so I think that he's someone that everyone can listen to and understand on this podcast today. So let's see how he's doing. How have you been today and this week, Fafnir?
This week I'm pretty good. I'm a little stressed out. There's a basketball game that I care about for non-Dota related things, and then the patch dropped, so I was distracted at work for multiple reasons. So, but I had a good weekend. It was Mother's Day. Went out to dinner with my wife's family, but you know that's really it.
Nice. That's better than mine. I haven't had any special Mother's Day thing yet. I'm doing that tomorrow. So, yeah, you gotta get in family where you can, but sometimes it's just too much on a weekend basis. There's too many things to plan at once. But yeah, all right, cool. Well, we gotta dive into this patch because I have a feeling this is gonna be a long one, and
yes,
we are gonna have to buckle in, guys, because we're gonna probably be arguing back and forth a lot about this. So we'll try to go as fast as we can, but I'm guessing it'll probably be at least 4 hours. I don't want to set myself up for a ridiculous amount of time already, but oh man, there's so much changing about this patch. We talked a little bit about it before we got on here and started recording, so we want to throw as much as we can at you guys and kind of give you guys a good perspective that you will be able to take with you for probably until the end of this patch. I think that I have a really good handle on this, and Fafnir feels a little confident, a little unconfident on certain areas, but I think he has it down better than he thinks. So let's start off with the general stuff, Fafnir. Let's talk about the deny mechanics. The creep denies now gain you gain a deny for 30% of the team who denied it, and the normal deny is not the same, or it was 50%. They got 50% of the experience. Now it's 70% of the experience. So basically, all experience is being handed out. In general, it's just going to be 70% goes to the enemy team, and 30% goes to your team whenever you get a deny. How do you feel like this is going to change the game, Faf?
So first of all, it changes mid drastically because the net effect of, if you just do the math, the net effect of a deny is greater because you get 30%. It used to be they lost 50%. Now you get 30 and they get 20 more. So there's a difference in denies. Are more meaningful, especially in the 1v1 mid matchups. Additionally, it also means that it's more meaningful to deny creeps manually when you are pulling in the safe lane. So supports can get more XP this way. It also means that safe laners, like, if there's not an enemy hero nearby, they often wouldn't bother with denies unless they needed it for creep equilibrium, or they thought someone might be in the trees. Now you hit it every time because it's 30% more XP for you. So there's going to be a lot. Laning is going to get more technical. It's way more important, and you can get real level advantages out of it. I haven't done the math on it, but I'd imagine at 10 minutes you could easily get an extra level, maybe more, off a safe laner. And as far as game-wise, I think we might see a lot more dual mids to extra contested denies, especially given that many mids are balanced around having low damage to start with, like Sniper or Shadow Fiend. And then there are other mids that are that have great damage, and I think they might be emphasized more, so you have to dual lane versus them, even in a normal matchup. And then the other thing I'd say, the final point before I'll let you talk, is I think safe lanes are going to be contested almost all the time now, if you can manage it without just feeding away the game, because if you let a safe laner just deny freely every single last hit, like a guy like Burning, a guy like Black, they can actually deny every single creep, hit every single creep, and get a bunch of jungle creeps as well. That would mean they get 30% more XP from just lane creeps, which means they could easily get an extra level or two on a Slark or an AM if you don't contest them, and that is a huge deal for those heroes that just start snowballing on you. So I think people are going to be contesting mid and safe lane a lot more with extra heroes, all the time.
Yeah, me too. I also think that there's this is kind of a giant buff for that harassment type hero. Like, if you're able to keep them away and you just get the denies where you're actually giving them 0 experience and you're giving your own team 30 experience, that's, like you were saying, it's a huge buff to your team. So if you can get that, like, I was thinking about Skywrath Mage, right? Skywrath Mage is kind of at a point where it's like, oh man, this hero isn't useful because, one, there's the shrines that are available, they're able to heal up, kind of negate what the damage is done, and yeah, okay, you push him out of lane for that second, and then they just come right back with full health, and then they start farming away. But with this whole, like, if you can push them away just for a few waves, like not even getting into the changes of Shrine at all, just pushing them away for a couple waves and denying them 0 experience and getting more experience on your own, makes it so that if you have enough regen, when they re-engage on the creep wave, you will be maybe a level higher. Like, your supports may be level 2 when he's still level 1. And or even higher than that. You know, if you do it the aggro correctly and you pull and you get stuff done, you may be able to have your carry at level 3 before he can even hit level 2, and that would be just an insane potential in safe lane. At the same time, I kind of feel like maybe this kind of lends itself to going into the 2-1-2 strategy a little bit more, because if you're going to be trying to go into the off lane, you can't really give up as much as you once did. Like I was saying, if you just completely give up the lane and you go into the jungle, you're kind of getting a worse off trade at that point. So this really kind of hurts the Iron Talon style of play, because you're taking away, you're giving the other team more experience by being able to deny all those times. So I feel like it's an interesting pool on how the game is, and I totally agree about mid. There's a lot of potential there, and there's some other things that are changing right now within this patch that make you even more correct about that, where you're going to have these situations of there's going to be a lot of focus on mid and how its potential of where it can move within the game. So, I mean, I kind of already talked about it a little bit going into that spiel of mine, but the shrines, I'm going to talk about them real quick, and I'm going to let you say your feel on them. The shrines now start on cooldown, guys, and we have they don't become available until 5 minutes. So those early shrine battles, those abilities of like fighting around the map, don't really exist until 5 minutes start. And it makes the safe lanes have that potential of, you know, having that, not being able to use it at that early. The shrine count is only 3 instead of 5. They actually took out both of the off lane and safe lane shrines, and it is now just the 3 in middle that are left.
No, that's in the base.
Right.
That was confusing. The way you phrased that was confusing. There's still the off lane and the safe lane and the mid shrine, and then there's only 3 shrines in your actual base behind the tier 3s. There's 3 shrines instead of 5.
Right.
Because it used to be there was 1 for each lane, and then there was 2 kind of in the middle.
Right. I'm sorry. Fafnir's right. So there are only like those now 5 now. The 2 out there. Yeah, these are right. Shrine mana regen growth per minute has been reduced from 1 to 0.75 as well. So there's a lot of changes here. Faf, how do you feel about these shrine changes in general?
I think they're good. They re-incentivize kind of invades more, because successful invades cost you more. You can't just shrine up if it costs you a lot of resources. So like doing a well done jungle invade or well done first blood is more important, because a lot of times teams wouldn't do it this patch. You could see they would just prioritize vision. They didn't want to invade because shrines meant that potentially if they don't get the kill, it was meaningless because the other team could shrine up, and also it meant they'd have to spend their shrine, that sort of thing. So like these sort of like 4-man like kill lineups like that people would smoke in, like Complexity I think used to do it all the time. I think those might come back into vogue because even if you just push somebody, you actually can force more regen out relatively. But like I think like you have to craft them more carefully. So there's like increased risk reward with that. So I think that's something teams are going to look at again. Overall, it's also just a big like Ember and SF, two mids that, you know, really took advantage of the fact they could just get the crap kicked out of them for the first 3 waves and then just shrine up, and then they've hit their level 2 or 3, which is what they need to actually lane competitively. That's kind of my thoughts on it. I think it's good overall. It makes early action and buying regen more valuable. And offlane just going PMS tangos isn't going to be sufficient anymore.
Okay. You're breaking up a little bit, man. I don't know if it's my computer or what, but you're on Skype. You're having some breakup there, so I might have to have you restate what you were saying.
Okay. I moved a little closer to the mic. Like, I'm not sure if it was those sort of issues or what.
No,
Let
you
me
still
see my
sound
input.
a little gargly here.
I've got poor connection on my internet. Let me see. I might not be able to do the Skype video call, honestly, man.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm wondering if that's the issue.
We can just jump into Discord real quick, and I'll close down
Okay.
Skype.
Yeah, sorry about that, but I'm guessing my internet connection is being a little taxed right now.
Ah, it's all good. All right, well, give us just a second. We're going to get Faf right back in here and close it down. And we will continue this video here in just a second. Sorry, guys. So, get that, switch over, jump in here. All right. Can you hear me, Faf?
Hello? Yes, I can. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much clearer. So it's a little bit quieter, but I'm going to turn you up a little bit real quick.
Yeah, I'm just in Discord now. So the one thing I'd say, probably to explain people, I actually use an internet-based television solution, and since I'm watching said game, I'm guessing Skype was not liking it, either from a port situation or just a bandwidth situation. So Discord's a little nicer than video calling. So
yeah,
I want to see my messy hair. So basically all I was saying about the shrines, I think it will incentivize more aggressive but like decisive jungle invades potentially, because you can't just shrine up if you get harassed. Before, like, they weren't that valuable to harass people because they could always shrine up if you like took most of the support's mana. But if you don't get the kill, it's more costly because, again, you can't shrine up and then keep your supports active potentially. So you might see teams experiment more with like the true jungle invades for first blood that you used to see way more regularly in Dota, but teams have kind of backed away from. And beyond that, it's just a big nerf to offlaners going PMS tangos, which is very light regen, a greedy build. But by using the shrine, they could survive till they could get the courier off of mid usually, and then get more regen shipped out. That's nerfed heavily because they can't do that and survive in lane. And then mids like Shadow Fiend Ember, who similarly would go to lane, get their butts kicked for a few waves, but get level 2 or 3, and then just shrine up so they could go back to like playing Dota again without having to go back to well. They're nerfed pretty heavily by this.
Yeah, I actually was thinking, is it gonna make teams like Cole kind of come back with a vengeance here? Like, they have that style of play, and they kind of were keeping that rhythm going, right? They still tried to do that in this patch. They didn't necessarily really have the greatest time developing a better strategy around what this patch is. Do you feel like they're going to come out of the gate a little bit stronger because of that? Because they, you know, like you're saying, this patch is now more to their game style of play. Or do you think that the teams will be able to adapt easily?
Whereas... I think Complexity's bigger issues is that the true 5-man Dota team group up Dota like them got nerfed, and it got changed from where Swindles was really comfortable shot calling it, and instead, like, you just see other teams execute it better. Like VP still has a very similar game style to what old Complexity did. They just do it at a different tempo and better tempo, and Complexity hasn't found that tempo. Right. So I don't think the jungle invades. It's just something Complexity used to like to do. And I think it kind of plays into the same mindset that led to their group up strategy. I don't think it makes a big enough difference to truly matter, just because kills are relatively, like, first bloods seems to be less important than it used to be, at least how I remember it.
True. And there's some changes up there in the patch that maybe will kind of key in what you're talking about too, and they've changed up a lot of different things there as well. So we're going to continue on. We're going to go into the lane type situation, because basically Fafnir already explained the whole shrines thing. I have really nothing else to say. So added an extra melee creep in the mid lane at the first 15 minutes. So what this means is that there's actually, at minute 0, there's going to be an extra melee creep at mid. Generally, they all got an extra melee creep. Every lane did at 15 minutes, but mid is just going to get the extra melee creep at minute 0, and then the two off lane and safe lane are going to be at minute 15, like they normally are. So just a little bit of a difference, adding like more creeps in mid. Kind of going to go into that a little bit here. Creeps meet a bit closer to the off lane tower, so you don't have to worry about your getting off your normal, you know, getting off those body blocks as well as you used to. A little bit different there. And creep aggro duration has been reduced from 2.5 to 2.3. Creep aggro cooldown has been increased from 2.5 to 3.0. And lane creep vision has been reduced from 850 and 800 to just a straight 750. Now, I know there was a lot that I said there, but Faf, you can go on ahead and talk as much as you want here. How do you feel like this is going to change?
I'm going to let you talk since I've gone the last two topics. I will note there is something that's very important with the melee creeps. Mm-hmm. The melee creeps now give, 40 XP instead of, 40 XP instead of 45. That is in the change, I believe, right?
Right. That's I think that's in the creep section.
Is that in the creep section? No.
There's so many different sections here. Economy, maybe?
Yeah, maybe it's in economy. It's not in that section, and I thought that was one of the biggest things. Yeah, it's in economy. It's the first point. And so the extra melee creep, if you do the math on it, you're getting an extra creep, but each creep's losing 5 XP. So basically what that means is that you're getting an extra, because there's 3 melees to start, or is it 4?
It's 4 melees to start, and then it goes into 5.
Right, and now there's going to be 5 from the start. So with 4 at 45, you'd have, the 180 XP off the melee creeps. Mm-hmm. So that meant in the first wave mid, there wasn't enough XP to hit level 2, if I've done my math right? Right. And now with the extra creep there, you're losing, you lose 20 you're losing 5 XP, so you lose 20 XP, but you're gaining 4. So there's 20 more, which means you can actually hit level 2 on the first wave again, which was a big thing about mid. You always got level 2 after the first wave. All the creeps were dead if there were no denies. So now it's back to that. So that's one of the big changes I think noted. But what do you think about the rest of them? Since I've kind of had the first go at the other 2 topics.
Honestly, I feel like when I'm looking at this lane thing, I feel like the extra melee creep is something that could be a really interesting move for people that are more push heavy. It kind of feels like it could be a really good patch for maybe DP or someone like Lina who can just burst down these waves in a giant AoE and use that extra potential of having another creep to be under tower so that they can get a couple more right clicks in. Has a lot of potential there. Not only that, obviously what you're saying makes a lot of sense. You know, you can get that level 2 earlier. You can get that level 2 on the first wave if no denies happen. And also that you have the denies happening, giving you 30% of the XP. So, like, I feel like it's not going to come out exactly to if you get the denies and stuff, but if you win that first lane, you're going to be a level up on the guy. And that's a big change, especially versus heroes that have that potential in those first 2 levels to be able to get a kill on someone on mid. It's not as strong as having a Ember Spirit there as it once was, because he doesn't really get strong until that level 3 happens. And if you can have that extra little bit to be able to push him out in the next wave, it could mean a big deal and kind of force these heroes that are once the kings of mid to kind of pull back a little bit on their potential. Whereas these guys that have a lot of pressure, a lot of availability to just take the gold and kind of go from there, could see a lot more play and have a lot more value than they once did. I don't really understand. I was kind of wanting to get your view on the whole creep aggro duration. Like, I understand what creep aggro duration is, but like, I don't really see that affecting very much. I could be wrong here. I know that the cooldown affects a lot, but the aggro duration doesn't seem like that much of a change. And then the creep vision is something that I think everyone loves. Basically, those pesky little wizards aren't going to be going outside and attacking you when you're just, standing next to the trees for no reason. They're going to have a lot less happenstance of that happening. And I feel like it just should have been that way to begin with, and I'm glad that they're doing something about the creep vision in general. I would like to see them not have flying vision, but then that would kind of change everything up. And I just wish that it was just neutrals that had flying vision. But I'm pretty sure that like they don't actually give flying vision, but they can like aggro in flying vision, and that's how the wizard kind of gets to that point. So it's pretty weird, and I'm glad that they're switching that up a little bit. Faf, so what's the whole thing with the creep aggro duration? Like, what's...
Well, I mean, aggro duration, this is because you roam so much. Aggro duration is simply how long they chase after you. So they're basically chasing you like 8% less time. And then the creep aggro cooldown means after you've aggroed them and they've come off you, you've got 3, they only check every 3 seconds now instead of 2.5. So it's just more time for you to harass freely amongst the wave. If you watch really good support players, like when I played against like a 4K, like a 5K Dazzle, and all he does is play support and played a lot of Dazzle, he just destroyed me in the off lane against a hero where I thought I'd be fine, largely because he manipulated the creep wave perfectly, where he would be in the wave where normally I would bait him into getting creep aggro, but he used the cooldown perfectly and just got like 5 extra hits that an offlaner of skill level I'm normally used to would not get. And that's however much, like 200 HP or something, like over the torso thing, or like 150, which meant I couldn't be in like XP range, or I couldn't trade with him that aggressively. So you talk about how harass is a big deal. This just means that you can harass more often, more frequently, especially with ranged heroes. And the cooldown also means that it's going to be a little harder for you to manipulate, to pull creeps back. Conversely, it's also harder for safe laners to manipulate the creep aggro to pull, because you see every safe lane player or mid player, they'll try to pull creeps to their range creep to set it up in deny range. And this is one of those things where it's actually a little more difficult to do that now because of that 3-second cooldown. If you mess it up, or if the enemy counters it properly with their own aggro manipulation, there's 5.5 more seconds where the creeps are on cooldown, so you can't try it again even. So it's just interesting.
Yeah.
It just changes how you have to play in lane, and I think opens up the potential for more efficient harass because you have a bigger windows which to punch people without the creeps chiming in.
Totally. Okay. Well, I kind of like had that as like a, you get certain rhythms down in Dota, but I don't necessarily always know like the technical jargon for it. So that's good to know that that's the technical terms for it, because I feel like I do it. You harass and you learn as a certain support. It's like, okay, you can harass in this format, but you don't necessarily know all the little nuances of it.
Yeah, so basically, like a ranged support should be able to harass much more efficiently, even amongst the creep wave, which just makes Shadow Shaman, as we'll talk about later, terrifying.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so something I'm very excited about: the neutrals are being changed up by so much here. The neutrals now spawn every minute instead of every 2 minutes, just like it used to be. It feels great. Once again, my old stack rhythm, I'm going to have to get used to it again, but it's going to be great, because I had that down pat by 6.88, but then I had to relearn everything. So it's going to be a little bit different. Once again, we're going to have to get used to it the next couple weeks, but I feel like it's going to be for the better. Neutrals now give 20 less XP and 20 less gold, which, I mean, stacking isn't as strong then. And my phone's going off. That's why that pew 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 noise was going on. Sorry. We have the XP for neutrals now have XP and gold now are increased by 2% every 7.5 minutes. So later in the game, it's going to be a little bit stronger. It's not that much of a bigger deal, because obviously it has to go up 20 times. Well, no, 10 times. Obviously, it has to go up 10 times to be able to get to that point where it's going to be just the same as it once was. So neutrals have been lowered a little bit, and Faf, I'm going to try to turn off my phone real quick so that doesn't happen. Why don't you go first about this?
Yeah, so neutral, like it brings back a lot of heroes that would clear the jungle faster than a minute. It also incentivizes, it gives teams more to do when they have less map control per se, or cannot invade aggressively. So in many ways, this should slow down the tempo of the early game, because there's just more to do. There's more gold to be gathered beyond the change. Now, they did nerf it to 20% less. So that means early game, there won't be that much more gold because nobody can clear the entire jungle at level 1 heroes. Like, that's just not something they have the capability to do, and you can't stack every camp. But it does mean that there's just more objectives, because stacking a camp is achieving an objective. You are banking gold for your team, ideally. And so teams might fight over the jungles more rather than trying to get kills in the team. And it certainly makes ancient stackers, yeah, you get 20% more, but like a quad stack of ancients is still huge, and you can get it much, much faster now. So any hero that can take ancient stacks, from TA to Alchemist to Sven, Gyrocopter, Bristleback, Tidehunter, all these heroes that used to use those ancient stacks to catapult themselves, probably now have come back, or at least like if you can make a team comp that can utilize that. So it's just interesting, and it takes rhythms back. Like, I think Luna and AM are much stronger now because they're the two heroes of previous patches who could just clear the whole jungle, and then continue to turbo farm. But it's hard to say exactly how the meta will adjust. I think heroes like Lifestealer and that sort are going to be devalued relatively, even though they're still strong and in certain team strategies.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the biggest thing is actually a lot of this patch is before you even get to the heroes. There's so much change and so much little nuances that a lot of people are already saying like this is basically the same as going from 6.8, 8.8 to 7, and there's just so many little things that change that make it a very different game to play around, and just new mechanics that you have to change about your gameplay in general. And when new game mechanics happen, when new little things twist, you're going to see obviously a change in hero meta and styles from the base point, not just because the hero is strong in general, but because the hero has a certain way that the meta will flow, and the game now flows. So I think it's a really good point. I see that. I feel like that it's also kind of, obviously it hurts jungles early, but I think it also kind of helps the guys who can kind of quasi jungle and then kind of quasi support. So like Chen and Enchantress, yeah, you generally aren't like super jungling with them. You're only picking up a creep and then going and helping out in another lane. And I see that when these the changes of lanes being in a better situation, it's going to have a impact where, okay, I'm just going to grab this creep, I'm going to guarantee this farm for my lane and be over there, just kill like the little lesser ones and move on to bigger and better things to help out my team. So it seems like it's not like that they're increasing team fighting more, but they're just having lane presence be a bigger thing with every single update that they do here. And we're gonna go into the creep section of the update. We're gonna go into the siege damage type. The siege damage type versus structures have been increased from 150% to 250%. Pretty crazy buff. We also have the siege creeps getting their HP has been increased from 550 to 825. So those catapults are going to be wrecking pretty hard. We got the siege creeps spawn rate is going to be a little bit different. Instead of every 7th wave, it's going to be at every 10th. So basically, they're going to spawn every 5 minutes. And the extra ranged siege creep now spawn at 40 minutes instead of 45 minutes. So kind of pushing the game to end at that 40-minute mark, like they always have been, trying to really encourage teams to have these quicker games than they once were with original Dota. They're not wanting these hour and a half long games. They want these 40-minute games that are going to hopefully, especially for pubs, right? They want to end those games so that people don't have to devote an hour ahead of time. So, Faf, I have a bunch of ideas on this, but I kind of want you to go first, kind of see what tickled you about this idea.
I mean, the main thing I think with this is that they are so not just are they incentivizing you to end at 40 minutes, but they're also incentivizing earlier pushes. And what I mean by that is, so siege creeps are more important. They do more damage, they have more health, and they also come later. And that's actually really conducive to pushing, because at that point your heroes are stronger, so you're likely better prepared to push. It used to be with the first siege creep comes, only a few specific heroes could actually just destroy a tier 1 tower. The main ones of those would be Luna, Drow, Terrorblade are the three that come to mind. I'm sure there's some others, but those are the three that, in a safe lane or even a mid, in a safe lane situation in particular, I'm not thinking about mid heroes that can do it, could just, with a support or two, potentially just destroy a tower. And now, but on the 10th wave, it happens a minute and a half later. Heroes are relatively stronger, and meanwhile, the towers aren't any stronger. So you have more levels on your supports, more levels on your core. And so it incentivizes that timing push at 5 minutes to take a safe lane tower if that's something you want to do with a hero. And it's more probable that a wider range of heroes can do it. Especially if they can keep that siege creep alive. Because if you can set up a pull for a double wave, so there's just more creeps to eat the damage that a siege creep would normally take, or the siege creep can take more tower shots to stay alive, which means that the next wave could arrive. Because there's nothing like you're trying to push a tower and the siege creep dies to the last hit right as a melee creep runs into range, eager to die for his catapult.
Right. I actually feel like there's a lot of potential here with using, I mean, Midas's and Helms have already been popular in the past, but Midas has the ability to take out that siege creep really quickly, kind of offer their push, kind of stops their push at some points by taking that out. It's not anywhere near as good as obviously having a way to just nuke the creep wave down and then take it down from there, but it offers something for those heroes that are very single target focused and want to be picking it up anyway. So it's kind of a strategy to generally target that more than it would be another creep in the jungle. And if you're able to stack creeps in the jungle, it's not going to be as crazy, and you can generally farm them with your big ultimates or ways that you were describing before, so you don't necessarily have to go into the jungle. Also, I think it's really cool that they're buffing these up, because the popular thing to do was to take a way to be able to take that siege creep and use it against them and have 2 siege creeps at once. And with them being so much more powerful, picking up the Helm of the Dominators, just having an Enchantress or a Chen on the field to be able to just dominate it and push at that 5-minute mark or even that 10-minute mark could be insane. And I was kind of working with the math. I know you're way better at math than I am, Faf, so I'm going to kind of go to your expertise. But if you have, let's say at 3 minutes, you can capture 2 of the little catapults, and you can bring them down into a lane later on. So like if you had Chen and a guy who could build the Helm and put them down into a lane, there's 3 catapults there. I think it's about the same worth as having 5 old catapults in the same lane. Does that sound kind of right? Because the buff is about 75% on.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because if you're doing that, I assume you're just willing to tank it with other creeps. So apologies for my dog barking. But yeah, because it's 100% increase, which is say. Yeah, I think so. I think 3 would equal 5. That sounds about right. I'm not going to sit down and try to calculate to be sure, but yeah, definitely, it's the right order of magnitude, certainly.
Which is that potential is insane, right? I mean, having 3 siege creeps turning basically into 5 old siege creeps, that's a lot of damage to a tower. And I think there could be some interesting drafts coming out just from this one change of being able to make these siege creeps a lot better. And forcing them to, like you said, they're going to be in these lineups that are better for pushes. They're going to have the better marking times.
Was she full happy pants when she got in?
She was.
I thought you didn't do it.
So, Faf is talking with the wife real quick, so I'm going to continue on. I'm going to go into the attributes. We're going to go into these changes of all heroes got a strength growth increased by 0.3%. We have the regeneration from strength has been changed. It has been increased from 0.03 hit points per point to the strength to 0.06 points. So I guess it's going to be a bigger regen amount for strength, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's going to be bigger regen amount, but then the base regen of all heroes is going to be reduced by 0.25. And then the spell amplification got changed one more time. It's 1% per 14 instead of per 15 like it used to. It was actually at 16 before. Well, I think it was the last patch. I think it was 7.04. But they seem to keep buffing it over time. And then the mana per point of intelligence has been reduced from 12 to 11. And the base mana of every hero has been increased from 50 to 75. So somewhat of a buff for those who had low intelligence, but kind of a nerf to the ones who had mega intelligences. So I think Skywrath Mage kind of got hurt by that a little bit. He got the Spell Amp to be able to help him out, but things that have these guys that have these big, massive intelligences kind of got hurt in the long run because every point of intelligence got less mana. So, Faf, what do you feel from this change? Or do you want me to go first this time?
I mean, I don't think it's a big deal. I think it's just overall they're just making heroes a little tankier in general and have a little more mana to work with in the early game. The regen thing is actually significant. It means that, so before it used to be the way 0.03 HP per point of strength was scaled is that the amount of time it would just take you to natively regen your health without anybody helping, without any other thing helping you, would be the same. So like anytime you got more strength, like it still would take you 100 seconds because the regen was scaled with the amount of HP you got. You would regen in however X number of time it would take you to regen. But by doubling it now, they make it so stacking more strength actually makes you regen a little faster. It might also counteract the fact that strength gives you a little more health than it used to. Base HP regen is basically to counteract that a little bit early game, but it just makes strength heroes regen a little bit faster. So I think it's mostly just a buff to low stat heroes in the beginning of the game. That's what it is. So like Slarks, Alks, heroes that kind of have garbage initial stats are a little tankier, a little tougher. That's it.
Gotcha.
Or garbage stat growth specifically.
Yeah.
Slark, Alk, and Ember are like the three that are classically, like, they have so many cool item things that they do with their items that their stats just are balanced by around them, their stats being terrible.
Mm-hmm. I actually think that this is a big buff to heroes, the strength heroes that have those low mana pools. It gives them that more of a mana pool, makes their base strength grow up just by a little bit, but it is something. And like Spell Amp for a lot of those heroes is pretty important. Like take Bristleback. Bristleback having just a little bit more Spell Amp for the later game when he has that huge intelligence growth really helps him out to be able to have his spells do obviously more damage, and he needs the mana in the beginning of the game.
Wait.
Sorry, what?
The Spell Amp went down, man. Oh no, never mind. I was reading the ratio wrong. It was okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, so I was like, man, I'm really off my game today. So it increases that Spell Amp. It increases his strength for the late game. It increases the mana that he gets in the early game. It's actually, I feel like it's not that they purposely meant to do this, but it's actually a really big buff to people like Bristleback, maybe like Sven even. You know, these guys that generally don't have these big mana pools that are going to be coming out and needing the potential of what they can offer more later in the game. Now, obviously, Sven doesn't get anything from Spell Amp, but I like to see that strength is still valued because there's a lot of things that they did, I feel like, in this patch otherwise that kind of hurt strength heroes in general. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I don't think it's that significant. I really just think that they're just trying to tweak how much heroes can do from the start. Like, yeah. Especially with the removal of shrines, that's it. Like, that's the big hero that gets the biggest buff is Venge. She can cast 2 spells now.
Yeah,
I think with the 25 extra mana, she'll be able to cast 2 spells, but I might be wrong with that. It used to be she had to buy 2 branches or 1 branch or something to cast 2 stuns.
Right. No, you're right. It would be exactly enough because I've played a lot of Venge, and that's exactly what happens every time. It was actually something I kind of laughed about. I thought about like Morphling too. Like Morphling maybe has a chance of getting 2 waves off. Like possibly. I don't play Morphling enough, but it kind of seems like the guys that have the low intelligence on Agi could be buffed by this too. But I mean, as you said, it's not that big. It's being able to cast the spells once or twice extra when you generally have mana regen in your pocket anyway. So move on to the economy of it all. We're going to go into, as Faf mentioned earlier, the reduce melee creeps base XP bounty went from 45 to 40. The reduced melee creep bounty upgrade from 3 gold per cycle to 1 gold per cycle. So, you're going to get less bounty from there. The melee and ranged barracks from Team Bounty has been reduced from 275 and 225 to 225 and 150 to each player. Roshan bounty has been reduced to 200 from 200 to 150 to each player. Shrine bounty reduced 150 to 125. Death cost has gone from 100 plus net worth divided by 50 to 50 plus net worth divided by 40. And tier 3 bounty has been reduced to 240 to 200, and tier 4 tower team bounty has been reduced from 280 to 200. So a lot of reduction there, a lot of taking away the gold. Do you think that they're trying to make the game last a little bit longer now, kind of counter to my point before of saying that they're wanting these 40-minute games, or are they just like trying to get people like these bigger late game items to come up a little bit later than they have been? Because I feel like late game items that used to come up at like minute 50 are starting to come up at like minute 30 in the last patch.
I mean, the melee creep reduction is entirely related to the change mid for the most part.
Right.
If they wanted to add the extra creep there. The melee creep gold bounty, I think they're just reducing the worth of creeps in general. That's kind of been a trend. And they do so again with the melee creep again. I think that's more related to mid than anything. I think they're just reducing the objectives because it's just trying to break up. It's the classic, whatever is the dominant meta or strategy, Ice Frog nerfs it. What was the dominant strategy? Well, the dominant team, and you'll see later in the general changes, he nerfs solutions again. The dominant team that won the last couple majors and has been the top team for however long, even after they didn't win TI, they've been the top team for about a full year and a half through roster changes overall. It's been illusion heroes, taking objectives carefully, and especially this patch, it's been group up and take objectives and use the objectives to kind of fuel you.
Mm-hmm.
And so now all the objectives are worth 50 gold less per one, and that matters in the broader sense, just little tweaks. So losing Elena Rax doesn't cost you quite as much. Roshan's been de-incentivized from a gold standpoint, at least. So I don't think this is a big deal. I think this is the classic balancing tweak. This is the dominant strategy. We're going to make that a little worse. Similar to how previous patches 7.05, they changed it to make, with the tower armor change thing, and 7.04, I think, was when they first introduced it, to make split pushing a little more effective and lane pressure more important, less about grouping up, because towers just take more damage to creeps and solo heroes than they do like a full team, basically.
That makes a lot of sense. They obviously want to take away, like you're saying, these different objectives. I think that they're still valuing the group up and team fight, though, because they're not taking away the bounties off of the T1s or the T2s, so that like that push potential of just taking all the outer towers. Obviously, they still value the whole split push idea of, because they have the whole area gets more armor for the number of heroes that are around it. A lot of push on that, but they're not taking away all the objectives. They're just taking away these big key objectives that people get. It's like when you got Rax or when you got a Shrine or like Roshan, it meant so much for your team. And they're just saying, okay, we're going to pull that back a little bit, keep the game always guessing, keep the game from getting too crazy by chip damage. Because like the chip damage meant so much, like you were saying with the illusions, where like if you got one of these big points, then it kind of turned the tide of the game for you. So if you had a team wipe, and the team wipe wasn't as big a deal as getting a tier 3, just gold wise sometimes, and getting the tier 3 in Rax was just huge. I remember being like I remember many times being a 5, having nothing but wards and boots, like upgraded boots at a certain point, and then we get Rax, and it's like, oh, I finally have a push staff, and I'm working next towards my next item. So it's a very good point that they're trying to nerf illusions in general by doing this. I didn't even think of it that way. I thought of it more of they're trying to devalue almost the chip damage, which obviously goes into that, and make Treant's armor a little bit less useful. Not that they're just like focusing on Treant, but the ways to heal and keep your towers alive isn't as big of a deal as it once was.
Yeah, the other thing that we didn't talk about is the death cost is rescaled, so it's again more punishing. You lose less for a single death. It's 50 plus your net worth divided by 40. So how much money you have is more relevant again, once again. And so this means that they introduced this change to where, like, losing the alk or your position 1 was worth, like, they lost a lot more gold than the support did. And again, now instead of divided by 50, you divide by 40. So it's a pretty big scaling increase. So deaths are incredibly punishing on cores now, or relatively more punishing on cores. So it just kind of changes the math on when you kill the big position 1 carry.
Yeah, definitely. We do need to talk about the general changes at this point. The general changes kind of changed up a lot. I think I'm going to cut this one in half just because there's so much. The illusion gold and XP bounty has been changed, and it goes from 5 plus level to 2 times level, which, wow, that's a huge change. And then illusion building damage has changed. It goes, there's a reduction from illusions doing damage to buildings, and the old reduction was 50, and now the new reduction is 60%. So a little bit change there. The buyback cooldown has been increased from 7 minutes to 8 minutes, and Roshan drops cheese from second death instead of third. So yeah, a lot of changes right there, and then we'll kind of go talk about the other ones. Or do you want to talk about Roshan?
Yeah, you gotta add that Roshan armor bonus per upgrade interval is now, instead of 1.1, it's now 1.3. So just Roshan's gonna have more armor. I don't think makes much sense to talk about Roshan changes without including both of them.
It's true. It's true. I was just looking at the cutoff point, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, halfway.
All right. So yeah, that's true. It's true. So I'm gonna take this one real quick. I think it's really funny that illusions are getting nerfed this bad. I love that illusions are getting nerfed, but it feels like PL's just gonna suffer even more through these changes, because oh man, that is a lot of gold that is gonna be divvied out if it's 2 times level. That is a ton. I don't, like, the hero was not picked before. He is definitely not gonna be picked now, and especially with the illusions not doing damage to the towers. Like, that's, I don't know.
No. Okay, so illusions created by Juxtapose have a flat 5 gold cost.
Oh, okay. They don't get changed by that at all.
PL's illusions created by Spirit Lines have a 5 gold cost. PL illusions created by Doppelganger might have the scaling cost, actually. It looks like they have the scaling cost, as would Manta illusions, but of the core illusions where he creates a ton of them, his Juxtapose and his Nuke have a fixed gold cost. That was actually one of the problems with the Ags. The Ags build is actually pretty effective as a split push / team fight sort of hero where you just drain everyone's mana, but they used to have the scaling gold cost with them on the Spirit Lance ones, even though they shouldn't have. And once they fix that, they don't scale. So PL is not affected by that scaling, though the building reduction damage obviously hurts him. And when he creates mantas, his mantas behave like normal mantas. They're just everyone's mantas. But again, his mantas have his passive, so for the most part, the mantas you create, like, they just create swarms of other illusions. So again, that's not a huge nerf to PL.
Right, but the thing is he's a hero that generally has to build those, has to build a Manta, and Manta is nerfed by this, and his Doppel guys still give a bigger bounty. So I understand what you're saying, definitely. You're right. I was misguiding people there by saying that all the illusions would give it, but he still picks the certain items and certain abilities that will give them the potential of getting a lot more gold out of it, because a lot of times you're going to be rushing down and trying to make as many illusions as you can. So if you have that AoE damage, you can just farm off of him still with a big potential. Whereas obviously you could still go down PL and you can still use your you could still use the ability to just spam your Q and get the Ags and be much more effective. And I do like that idea. I don't see him. I don't see that build like taking over because the other illusion heroes are bad. I see.
Oh, well, the other illusion heroes function entirely different from PL, which is why it's
True.
so difficult to balance him in general. His illusions are always more skirmishy. He's not the building hitter ever since they changed him from like the TI, what, 3 era?
Yeah.
They changed him after that, I think. So I don't think PL is really even worth talking about with this. This is just a big nerf to the illusion sieges of the type you see with OG. There's a big difference between 50 gold and that. I don't think the gold's huge, but the building damage reduction is huge. Going from 50% to 60%, you're going from 50% damage to 40% damage, basically. So you're being reduced by a fifth. And that's a pretty big deal. Additionally, there was 2 other nerfs to illusion that I think deserve mention here, and they're actually item nerfs, but radiance damage on illusions again got reduced, and Dagon's now one-shot illusions, a la Lion Mana Drain, Hex, Glimpse. There's a number of things that just instantly kill illusions, and now there's an item that is not Scythe of Ice that can one-shot illusions that is cheap, relatively, as far as Dota items go. So just in general, they're trying to nerf illusions wherever they can because, again, the dominant team is primarily wins. When they have to win a game, they go with an illusion hero, like every time if they can. And Ice Frog always wants to nerf the dominant team's strategy because he wants to kind of force change, force evolution, and keep things from getting stale. Because otherwise, everyone would still be doing exactly what Alliance did in TI3 because it was just the best strategy.
Definitely. And I also want to mention. I mean, obviously, we also talked about the buyback being increased and Roshan, all the different changes to Roshan. I really like the Roshan drops cheese on the second one instead of the third. I think that if you build a Roshan team, it's kind of easy to get the first 2 Roshans. And if you build a Roshan team, it kind of like there's more incentive to do that now to be able to grab the 2 first ones. So like if you have Ursa or even the ability of getting Lone Druid has some feel to it, has some understanding to why they would go down that path. They still kind of even it out by saying, okay, we're going to give them a little bit more armor. It's not a lot, but it's a little bit, and each little bit of armor helps out. And I think that when you look at these teams that generally have these Roshan lineups, when it gets to the third one, it's much easier for a team to be able to contest that one and guarantee that they can get the cheese and the Aegis. And if your team's designed to be able to like guarantee yourself that advantage, then they should be able to get the first cheese, I feel. So I like that change, and I also like that buybacks are going to be longer. I can't stand when the meta is just buyback as much as you can. And well, it's kind of something to to talk about later on. The respawn talents got kind of changed up later on, so get ready for that as well. And we'll talk about that here in a bit. Is there anything that you feel like buyback and Roshan that you feel that needs to be said here?
No, I mean, this just highlights the theme that they actually kind of want games to not drag out too long. Like these are all changes that incentivize some early game potential, because it used to be you could not often you cannot end a game until you catch a hero who's on buyback cooldown, especially at the high levels. And so an extra minute means there's just an extra minute of vulnerability. So it could have a reverse effect, though, because it just could also mean an extra minute where teams turtle. And frequently what you do is you see teams, they have to buy back one hero, they force a similarly key buyback, and then both teams turtle because it's a high-stakes game and they don't want to lose it. And that's sometimes what you see. Oftentimes, usually the losing team actually takes that as a chance to smoke up and go for aggressive plays because they feel like they'll lose the stalemate more often than not. But overall, it still is typically a stalemate because most late game smokes actually don't result in a team fight. Usually what happens is both teams read them and they kind of miss each other, is the most common occurrence actually, and then nothing happens. But it's just a bigger window to punish people for having to buy back. So hopefully It doesn't have the reverse effect.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. The Kimbrel, real quick, we did talk about the shrines being changed. So Kimbrel is not with us. He's actually not able to talk tonight. He might be able to join us in later, and he might be on a little bit. We're gonna try to work him in. It's just me and Faf though for now. So I forgot to mention that earlier. So let's go into where we're going into. Okay, respawn talents. I'm going to talk about them in a little bit. I'm actually going to talk about them within the heroes, but they have all been replaced, like I said before, and there's some pretty crazy ones in there. So we'll get into that when we get into the heroes. Item changes, though. One of my favorite things is actually item changes. They're really big buffs and nerfs to heroes types as a whole, and if you can kind of feel it out, it really helps you kind of understand where the meta is going to be shifting almost as much as the general basis stuff. I feel like the heroes are very specific when they do buffs and nerfs to them, and it's not always the easiest to read, but these are the easier things to read and understand. So, Aetherlence has been changed up quite a bit. Its spell amp has now been increased from 5% to 6%, and it no longer its old recipe required a energy booster, a ring of health, and a recipe. And now it requires an energy booster, a void stone, and a recipe. And the recipe still costs the same, so it is the same amount of money in general, because ring of health and void stone cost the same amount. And you're basically going to get plus 250 mana, the mana regen from void stone, which is 100%, and 6% spell damage. So just a little bit of a change there. I personally love this change. I think it's a very good idea. I don't think that... I kind of felt like when the item first came out for Aetherlens, they made it like perfect for Pudge and not the best for other people. I don't think Zeus really needs the health regen as like a build-up, but this item is so core on heroes like him, where they're high spell damage and need to be at a further range. So I like to see that they have this ability of getting this mana regen on this item that gives you a lot of mana. And hopefully you can get some health regen in other ways, maybe Force Staff or things like that, that can provide a little bit more to you. How do you feel about Aetherlens, Faf?
I think that's exactly it. I think they're trying to buff heroes that you've seen the meta go away from caster sort of heroes that do Force Staff Aetherlens, Zeus in particular. I think they looked at it and decided that the item needed to be more useful for the supports, like it was underbought. So what do supports actually need more than health regen? They need mana. So they rebalanced it that way. And especially when you consider the change they made to Force Staff. If you look at that, we'll get into that in a little bit. But Force Staff now basically gives you more health regen for the same cost. So I think basically what they're trying to do is say to the supports who often have Force Staff Aetherlens, like, here you just get more for the same items you were buying anyways to buff you. It's a massive deal for Zeus. Frequently with current Zeus builds, especially since they took away Octarine Core's mana regen, you could be 6-slotted, and until you have a Scythe of Vice, you might not have a mana regen item, which actually was kind of crippling in a lot of ways because Octarine Core was so strong. Anyways, and Zeus kind of doesn't necessarily build regen items depending on the game. Honestly, like mana percentage regen. But Aetherlens is something I think you almost always get in Zeus, so it fills a big hole in his builds, actually. So it's a big Zeus boost buff to Zeus in particular, and I think overall a buff, because almost every hero I see get Aetherlens actually also gets a Force Staff. So as a net, they're just getting more mana for, a few less health regen, but like the extra little bit of health regen is plenty.
Yeah, and it makes sense too. I feel like, let's just jump into Force Staff here right now, because I think it's a good transition. Force Staff required an old Force Staff obviously required a Staff of Wizardry, a Ring of Regen, and a recipe that was 900 gold. And they changed it up to the Staff of Wizardry, a Ring of Health, and the recipe, which is 400 gold. And I feel like this is an item that kind of is indicative of what the rest of the items are in general, kind of give you a glimpse on what's going to be happening in these rest of these items we talk about. But they seem to be pulling away from the recipes a little bit and try to have more of a build-up in general, and have if there is a recipe, it's going to be a really low cost recipe, hopefully somewhere between maybe 200 to 600. They're not doing it for all items, but it seems to be for the items that they are changing. They're trying to feel it out, and I like it. I like that idea. And like Faf said, there's a lot of health regen coming up from this item by giving you the health regen before. It was 4 health regen, and now it's 6 health regen on this item. So it makes a lot of sense, and I totally see what you're saying now. I thought it was like, okay, you could go into another item where you could kind of get health regen too, and I was thinking, honestly, A lot of times, there's a lot of heroes that generally like to go Bloodstone with that ability, just being able to have a lot of availability to go move around and get a lot of kills and use their spells in an offensive way and getting that huge mana regen and having some minor health regen. And having that soul ring in the very beginning really helps out, just having like some type of health regen just to exist out in the field. And if you need to, you can pick up a healing salve or something like that. But I think that your idea is more spot on. I think that the Force Staff is generally something that's going to happen more often than not. So, makes a lot of sense. So, some quick changes here. I'm going to go through like 4 of them. Blade mail.
I have one more little comment on the Force Staff.
My bad.
I actually think it's a pretty big buff to the laning stage of a lot of ranged heroes that go Dragonlance.
Yeah.
Because, well, okay, I'm not sure if it's a buff or not, because usually you'll see a lot of in pro games, and I do it myself, you'll see the casual ring of regen picked up to sustain you through laning and jungle farm, and you eventually use it into a headdress or a Force Staff. Like, that's the 2 heroes that would do that. So like a Vlad's, you'll see trolls do that if they're going to go Vlad's build, that sort of thing, or Helm of the Dom. Now, since it's a ring of regen, it's just a much stronger item and gives you a lot more regen potential. So like I'd see like Spectres and other safe lane carriers frequently get a ring of regen instead of the ring of health. Like instead of the small ring, they get the the ring of health instead of the ring of regen. So now you can get that ring of the bigger item. You can get that ring of health on way more heroes and still have it not be wasted gold. It still fits into your overall build. So say for a Luna, you can get that ring of health instead of the ring of regen, and that just, instead of 3, you're getting 5. That's a lot. So there's just a lot of heroes that I think can economize more into lane sustain to kind of keep themselves healthy. So I think that's one of the interesting changes you'll see.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't even think of it like that.
That's because I play carry. That's what I was thinking about. Like, how does this affect me?
Of course. I mean, I always think of that for support too. Like, what can I edge out on the other enemy supports a lot of times? So makes a lot of sense. All right, so Blade Mail's got switched up a little bit. Its cooldown has been increased from 18 to 20. Not too big of a nerf, but something a nerf nonetheless. Blightstone is no longer a unique attack modifier. And you're going to see that a lot. I was actually going to ask you, Faf, what is the unique attack modifiers after this patch? I don't even know if there is one. I couldn't even think of it.
Yes, there are 2. I can look it up for you specifically. I know of 2, and unless they change Sand King, 3, actually, because there's still 3 left on here.
They changed Sand King, so...
Okay, then they didn't change OD, and they didn't change AM.
Okay, all right, OD and AM?
Those OD and AM are the only unique attack modifiers left, and they didn't remove it on Lifesteal, did they?
No, they didn't remove it on Lifesteal, so you're right.
Okay, so Mask of Madness, Mask of Death, and Satanic, AM, his passive mana break, and then OD's Orb Effect. Those are the 5 unique attack modifiers left.
Right, but those are the only... Man, that's so weird.
So basically it only affects AM and OD.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Which you're like, I at this point, it's like, might as well just let it all through. Like, seriously, I don't know. I understand that OD with, like, Lifesteal hitting as much as he does would be insane, but...
well, you don't lifesteal off the orb effects. Like, Silencer doesn't lifesteal off of his the spell damage from Glaives.
Right. But it'd still be insane to have a hero that can... If he can survive a little bit from a fight at all, then
oh yeah,
it's godly. And I think that if they had a way to be able to give him lifesteal off of some attacks would be incredible. Because he also gets the every time he hits with the orb as well. So it's not like you're going to keep stacking damage anyway.
Yeah. No, I think the only reason he's left those in is balancing concerns. I wouldn't be surprised if they tested them and he's shaky on them. Like,
honestly, I was thinking that Ice Frog is just like, people freak out whenever I change too many things at once. I'm just going to change this slowly over time, and hopefully everyone's okay with it by the end of it. So
yeah, that's probably almost certainly partially it.
Yeah. Anyway, so we got three. I'm gonna list off real quick. Blightstone's unique attack modifier, obviously, like we just said. We got Bloodstone, or is not a unique attack modifier. Bloodstone's cooldown has been increased.
Bloodthorn.
Jeez, Bloodthorn. Bloodthorn has been increased by the cooldown has been increased by 14 to 18 now, so a lot longer on its availability. I think it. Well, we might get into it here in a little bit. The bottle cost has been reduced from 660 to 650, and Bracer's cost has been reduced from 190 to 175. There's not like a lot to talk about here. I think that these changes are indicative of how the lanes are going in general, and how bounties are working. They're trying to match the intensity of what's happening, and hopefully you'll get bottles about the same time. And same thing with, I think they're just buffing bracers, because bracers haven't really seen a lot of love with the addition of raindrops and all these different items that give you like these basic stat buffs. Whether it's before it was the urn was a general, you get a bunch of strength, live, and get some mana regen, and have a tool to be able to use from there. So it has a lot of different little things that aren't really changing very much. I think the biggest change is actually the cooldown from Bloodthorn, because it was getting to be the point where Bloodthorn was a bigger deal than Sheep, and I don't think that Bloodthorn should have been better than Sheep in most circumstances, because I don't know. I think Sheep should be one of like the end all be all items.
So, yeah, I agree with you on all that. Bloodthorn was just picked up too much, and people are just using it too much. The thing I'll say, the bracers, it's actually, that change has nothing to do with bracers for the most part. It has everything to do with buffing the new Atos and buffing drums of endurance, which are what bracers are made into. Bracers and Wraithbands aren't really valued in of themselves anymore. There's so many small items that you don't see the value builds that you used to in Dota 1 and early Dota. So now when you look at items like that, the small guilds, it's all about what do they build into. And the new Atos, that like keeps the cost at a certain level. And it's just a direct reduction to the cost of drums. And drums are just an underbought item relative to whatever Ice Frog views, because it's just one of the least built items. It just is. Mm-hmm. So same with Atos.
Yeah, it's true, and I do like what they're doing with their changes. I'm gonna wait a little bit on talking about it real quick though.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
So I'm gonna kind of do two at once: clarity and health salve, even though that they're not right next to each other. And if you're like following along in the patch notes, they are both now purgeable. So if you are trying to generally, if you have like a shadow demon ultimate on someone, it won't last those few extra seconds until the damage goes off. Interesting little change. I don't think it's gonna come in like pretty much ever. It's gonna come up like maybe once every 20 games that's gonna happen, but it's not really that big a deal. And then
it comes up every time Oracle's picked. That's it.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Okay.
I mean, is there any other purge that I can think of that doesn't come with damage? Shadow Demon ult, but by then clarities and salves don't matter. Like, who gets a purge at low levels? It's like a Doom with a purge creep, Diffusal Blade, and then Oracle. And Oracle actually has a long range purge that matters in lane. So that's honestly the only thing I think of where it matters a significant amount.
His purge does damage though.
Does it?
Yeah, it's one of his damaging spells. Like the two damage spells he has is his purge, and then his purifying flames, and then
that's right. It does. Fortune's End does do damage.
Yeah.
Or no, Fate's Edict is that's the disarm. Okay, so his purge does do damage. So basically, yeah, it's just like Shadow Demon. That just doesn't seem to matter. It's just I think it's just a being consistency. It's a buff. It can be purged.
Yeah. It's a little something, and probably it's like, okay, it's right, like you said, it's inconsistency. Makes a lot of sense. The Crimson Guard is its duration has been increased from 10 to 12. The Daedalus its damage has been increased from 76 to 80, and as Fafnir mentioned earlier, getting all my words mixed up here. Now Dagon kills illusions instantly. So a little bit of a change up there. Do you think the Crimson Guard buff is enough? Because the Daedalus is only 4 damage. It's something, and it's not anything to think twice about, but I think that the biggest change possibly is the Crimson Guard. 10 to 12 seconds can be kind of a end to end a team fight. Like 10 seconds, a team fight could still be going on. 12 seconds,
Yeah,
probably still there.
It's a 20% duration increase. That is significant. Like it just is. So I think I don't think that's the most significant change though. I think the Dagon change is the most significant one. And the reason is that in the ultra late game situations where illusion chip damage is almost unstoppable, a big part of the reason it's unstoppable is you just cannot kill illusions fast enough, even if you are committing level 4 amped up nukes on cores. So I did the math on this. For the same cost as a Manta, you can have 2 level 1 Dagons, and they delete Manta illusions on close to the same cooldown. Especially if it's a range hero, the cooldowns line up almost exactly. It's like 35 seconds to 30. So, you know, the famous EG game where they bought a bunch of Dagons and just killed Ice, I think, on a carry when he otherwise would have been safe. But now the supports did 600 damage he didn't account for because they just had that much gold from the team fight and just bought them or, you know, quickly spent it. So now it gives supports a way to itemize against illusions. And a level 1 Dagon isn't that expensive. It's what, 2,600 some gold? It's a medium range item. It's completely obtainable by a support, especially a late game support. And if you are in a late game situation where you're like, illusions are a problem for our team, you can itemize, say, instead of getting a 4-staff or instead of getting that solar crest, I can get a Dagon. And now I have a counter to illusions. And like, yeah, it only counters 1. But when you're dealing with a Terror Blade who is popping Manta illusions and will kill your tower over the course of 5 minutes, and you literally cannot save him, having 2 supports be able to just blow them up the second they approach the tower, basically every time it happens, that's a big deal. That's a big itemization path that you can take. And again, this is something that only comes up in the ultra late game, but I think only illusion sieging only is risk-free and unstoppable in the actual late game when this comes up. That's why I really love the change.
It's true, and having the big, you know, 2 times the level. Like, I know it's not a bunch of money, but it's still something that, like, if they're trying to do chip damage, and you can instantly kill the illusions, and it's just slowing them down over and over, the Dagon will help pay for itself at that point, because they can instantly kill it without getting too far out into the team fight, and really not wasting any of your spells, because that's kind of the biggest thing, is like, yeah, you can use a Hex on one of them to kill them instantly, but then you're giving up a stun from either, you know, Shadow Shaman or a Lion. Whereas if you just pick up a Dagon now, you can blow up that illusion, get that gold, and, I mean, yeah, you'll use a little bit of mana, but a lot of times if you're pushing high ground, you'll have the availability of having a shrine, because there's still 3 there, and you can kind of touch up with on the shrine and help your fight. So, interesting. I saw the use of it, but I didn't think that, like, mathematically, you know, of understanding, okay, you could buy 2 of them for every Manta. And
yeah, so it's a 30-minute, let's see, Manta cooldown. I know it's different from melee and range, so I don't want to say it. Like, I know, oh my goodness, I keep mistyping it. Yeah, okay. Oh no. So for a ranged hero, it's 45 seconds. So Luna, like, you could just Dagon her Manta illusions every single time, and your Dagons will be off cooldown faster than hers. And the mana cost is only 55 more, so it's not negligible in the late game situation. You can deal with that mana. You could buy a Clarity with the gold that you got from zapping it, and you're fine. And then for melee, it's 30 seconds compared to 35. So, like, Terror Blade illusions could still, like, there's still like a 5-second window there where you could get it. But that's like, you know, 5 seconds to walk up from where you can Manta safely is probably what it takes to actually walk. Because you're walking from the 1 high ground usually to because it's usually the top or bottom lane just because of how mid is prioritized. Usually, you're seriously going to take you about 5 seconds to walk up. So, I really think that the reason they selected that is they were just trying to figure that out, and they did that and said, okay, this kind of works out.
Yeah. Also, something Kimbrel just mentioned, you can Dagon a Morph illusion and just check it real quickly.
Ooh, wow, that's actually huge.
pretty
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, pretty big. Because like I was thinking, these obviously the same idea of you, like you were going into the whole Mansa style, the obvious problem illusions that have existed in the game so far. But that is a major nerf to
it's
Morphling.
also a small nerf to Spectre. I don't think it'll matter in most situations, but like in situations where like a Dagon carrier is potentially getting haunted upon, you can just Dagon. It's 100% worth it to Dagon the Spectre illusion as well. And Morph and Spectre are the two that function off big scary illusions. So like a puck, if you're trying to Spectre haunt onto a puck, you have to be facing the right way to Dagon, correct? It's not like one of those skills facing doesn't matter for.
Yeah, you have to face.
Okay. So there would be a window for a Spectre to instantly haunt on a puck, but if this puck player is very fast, you potentially could Dagon it. And yeah, Morph illusions is a huge deal because a lot of times you'll see Morphs make an Alchemist or an AM, so it's not like a confusion play like some Morph illusions are often used to like trick people, but in late game you just make an illusion of a scary enemy hero or a scary friendly hero, and so now, like, in which case you absolutely know it is, and you can just zap it, and you can take away that farm potential, or you can take away the fact that they have an AM illusion that you actually have to be really scared of because that AM illusion is the third strongest hero in the game probably at that point compared to the Morph and the AM.
True. Okay, so Demon Edge, it's got changed up a little bit. We have the cost has been reduced from 2,400 to 2,200, and the damage has been reduced from 46 to 42. How do you feel about this? Because I don't play carry, and I'm looking at this item, and it's more of the item to get into really cool other items. So.
It's basically it is. So they didn't change Monkey King Bar at all. So basically, it means that Monkey King Bar and Rapier and Daedalus got cheaper. That is all that means. Casual Demon Edges really aren't a thing. You always you might buy one and then choose what path you want to go down later. But it basically, so yeah, it's a little worse as a casual pickup. And I think the reason they reduced the damage is that they don't want to make it more valuable as a casual, but they wanted to buff those items. So now Daedalus does 4 more damage and is 200 gold cheaper. MKB does the same damage, but is 200 gold cheaper. And same thing with Rapier. Rapier is now just 200 gold cheaper. So I think they just wanted to buff the flat, straight-out kill 'em items because Bloodthorn and Abyssal and Butterfly have kind of just become rarely. They are the items for the majority of carries. Very few build the flat damage items anymore, except in super situational ways. So again, it's the whole, if an item is underbought relative to its similar items, Ice Frog buffs one, nerfs the other. That's it.
Yep. And it's cool. I didn't even think of it. Actually, Daedalus went up 8 damage then.
8 damage. Yeah, effective. Well, it went up 8 damage, but you're only getting 4 more damage, but you're getting more damage per gold.
Right.
That makes sense.
Right. So a hidden buff that I didn't even notice because it was a nerf of a different item. So then we got Desolator isn't a unique attack modifier. Makes sense if the other negative armor is not a unique attack modifier. Pretty interesting stuff. You can put Deso on some interesting people now. We also have Mango being changed. Its cost now goes from 110 to 100, but it can't be sold. It must be consumed. I think that this is really funny and awesome because you can actually come out the gate with like with technically 6 tangos now. Not that it's a good idea.
Mangoes.
Yeah, mangoes. Did I say something else?
You said tangos.
Oh, geez. I'm just too excited about this idea. But you can come out with 6 mangoes. I don't suggest anyone going out with 6 mangoes, but it's a lot of fun just to think about. And there's also some cool changes with Mango. I'm going to kind of skip down a little bit here, kind of lump it in with this. There's a big change to Soul Ring. It actually doesn't require a 150 recipe anymore. It just requires a Mango. So Soul Ring costs less, and it's really cool because you can go to a lane as an off laner. A lot of times I will pick up one, and you can pick up a Mango, use its potential to, I have to use it to get a kill, or I have to use it to stay alive to be able to stun someone out. Awesome. Now I can use that, or if I just don't need to use it and I have been good the whole match, or for a little while in the match, I can just quickly buy up my health ring from the side shop and my Sobi mask from the side shop. I have it right there. I don't have to go back. I don't have to buy this useless recipe that exists at base, and I have a item that's potentially giving me both health and mana regen, spam ability, just so much availability that exists in lane. So I'm really liking this change, and I think that this is like a massive buff to Mango. Of course, Ice Frog would buff the Mango since he loves it so much, but you know, I'm happy with it because I love Mango so much. Do you feel like there's anything crazy about this? Like, would you build Deso on on anyone in particular? Like, I was thinking building Deso on Drow. I think that would be pretty fun. She could knock down towers pretty quickly.
You could build Deso on Drow. I don't really think you would, honestly, most of the time. It just opens up.
Because it doesn't give you agility and doesn't give your team agility? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, exactly. I actually think more often what you'll see is a Blightstone on Drow. Longer. Because, and even a Blightstone on AM. Because there are certain, like AM in particular, I know, you all aren't really slot starved because you don't want a full stick or wand most games. It's just not something you want on the hero because you're not looking to fight. You don't want to be in the middle of fights getting those. It's very specific matchup based, like Bat Rider, Bristle, or like a mana drain hero where you need to have a stick on an AM. And there's other carries like that who have like open slots where you'll often see people get Windlaces. Now Blightstone is more of an option. Specifically for AM, Blightstone's an option. You never want to go a full Desolator on AM just because of how the hero functions. Though late game, ultra late game, AMs usually have so much money they do stupid shit, or can do stupid shit with it. So like I could completely see EE in particular having a late game Deso in his backpack just for the chance, like, oh, they're all dead, or I have 15 seconds to hit this tower. I'm putting in my Deso instead of my Battle Fury because all I am doing is hitting the tower. And it's legit. It's you'll see here enemies do that. Like I can't remember. Somebody was snowballing in one of the major teams. They were snowballing on a Timbersaw, and he just went and bought a Desolator because they were going for the GG push, and it was tight. Like, the respawn windows were tight. He went and bought a Desolator and hit both tier 4 towers, so his other cores, his other physical safe lane carry, I think it was a mid Timbersaw, could hit the tower, and that minus armor reduction is hugely significant as far as tower effective HP. And I think they would have won anyways, but it's one of those things where, like, hey, if we're going to commit for this, we're committing because of buyback situations or something, and they committed, and I'm going to spend my gold because, we could lose the game on this push. It has to work.
Definitely.
So,
Definitely.
yeah, I think Deso Drow is fine. I think people will build it. I think people will go away from it because I don't think that hero needs raw damage. That's really not her problem. Like, her timing window, it's more about building up general tankiness and utility and Agi, because Agi provides a steroid for your whole team. And then current Drow builds honestly don't even focus on Agi. They focus on utility and survivability. You see Shadowblade, you see Hurricane Pike, which gives some agility, but it's all about keeping the Drow alive because that's always her problem. She just dies.
True. I was thinking of, like, okay, who could get this Desolator who doesn't have that has a unique attack modifier? I mean, she doesn't anymore. But
it's pretty much AM and Drow. Like, those are the two heroes that I think are building hitters that would have the gold to buy it. Because who else would get it? The other big thing is, honestly, any hero that builds wants to build lifesteal. Luna, those sort of things could potentially get it in certain situations. Like heroes that Gyro, there are certain heroes that I feel like almost always want to have some form of lifesteal because they lack sustain otherwise. So I think there's actually more heroes than I initially thought now that I think about it. But I couldn't tell you what that is. Other than Gyro and Luna are the two that come to mind. But I don't think it's good on either of them, but it doesn't mean I'm right. Like, I didn't think that there's a lot of builds out there that I thought were silly, and then it turns out they're awesome because they just work.
Yeah, I mean, and that's Dota a lot of times. Like, you work it out mathematically, and then you forget some, like, little outlier that just doesn't fit your general thinking. And you're like, oh, okay, so this this is the interaction. Okay, that breaks the mold then. I think what would be kind of interesting is maybe having heroes like I was thinking going through all these different heroes and being able to pick up lifesteal on Lycan, and obviously generally you want to go for the area
Lycan, that's
lifesteal.
actually huge. Yeah, because Lycan, the new Mask of Madness armlet build on Lycan, like the whole reason you don't get Deso on him is because you use the Mask of Madness as a damage and farm and like steroid. That's the only reason you don't get Desolator on him anymore. Like the choice was between which item was better, Deso or Mask of Madness, and the general consensus of high-level players was Mask of Madness. Now that's not a binary choice, so that's interesting. Good thought.
Yeah, so like I mean, and that's the thing, right? Like you want to grab these different things, and there's a couple of these items that have a lot of little nuances to them. Like Mask of Madness, we'll get to in a minute, but like they change up a couple of these items. Are like, whoa, okay, there's a lot of potential with combining with these other items that don't have a problem with it anymore. And that's kind of the thing about unique attack modifiers that I love being pulled out of the game. For so long, Dota was you had to play the game this way, and it opens up more and more every month, it seems like. All right, so we're gonna move on. We got Fairy Fire change, Hurricane Pike, and Midas here. We're gonna go Fairy Fire. Costs has been reduced from 75 to 70. It's a little bit more to work with in the very beginning. You generally don't buy Fairy Fires unless it's in the very beginning. So it kind of is a buff there. Kind of hopefully see some newer items besides Fairy Fires. Maybe just see a couple Fairy Fires on heroes, and unless something else. And then we have Hurricane Pike. It gains 2 more health regen from the Force Staff, obviously. So it's basically the same item, just gets a little bit more health regen. Hand of Midas has been a kind of a changing back and forth quite a bit. The recipe now costs 1,650, and it did cost 1,550. So it's a bigger cost. I don't know the old rules, but it was like what 20 minutes until it paid for itself.
The new one was 15 because they upped the gold.
Right.
But the XP was less, and now they've increased the XP again and reduced the gold again, and they've increased the cost. So, I mean, it's a 90-second cooldown. I could do the math for you, but it's just they're making Midas a little less of a gold accelerator and more of an experience accelerator again. Whereas before they moved it the other way.
Right.
So I think he's just trying to find a balance for Midas, because right now Midas seems to be a little too strong.
It is. And as Fafnir was saying, the XP multiplier has been changed from 1.75 to 1.85, and the bonus gold has been reduced from 220 to just a flat 200. Do you think that this is enough of a curve to get people to not have the 5- gaming style of play? Or
teams had already moved away from that largely. People moved on to more of like 2 or 3 Midases on key heroes that they want to scale. I think it moves it back more towards a core Midas, because XP, making XP gain a little better, gold reduction. But the other thing is that, like, so creeps are worth less, jungle camps are worth less. Like, I feel like they just made Midas worth a bit less because all the other sources of gold are worth less. So he didn't want to do this patch and make Midas stronger because otherwise it would have been, because your jungle creeps are worth way less. Well, what does that mean? It means anything that gives you a static increase like Midas did would be relatively stronger. Well, now you nerf Midas some, so it keeps everything kind of on the level. I think that's why he nerfed it more than anything, because if he didn't, it would definitely be stronger. And I don't think he wanted Midas to be stronger.
Yeah. That's
I didn't want Midas to be stronger.
I didn't even think of it that way. Yeah, that's a good point. All right, so we're gonna move into 3 of my favorite things here. I actually have been very, very excited to talk about these 3. Heart of Tarask now requires a second vitality booster instead of the 1,400 recipe. So it's kind of changed to facilitate that. The strength bonus has been reduced from 45 to 40, and the health bonus has been increased from 250 to 500. So it makes a lot of sense. It's going to cost less. It's going to the stats are going to go back to basic basically what it is. But what's really cool about this is that it can be completely bought without going back to base. And I know that doesn't sound like that big of a deal. You have to, you can go out there, pick it up, pretty much when you're out there, or it's kind of a bad thing whenever you're stuck in base and you want your heart. I like when these changes come out to being able to buy things in various spots and kind of take advantage of the map in a certain way. Can really nerf or boost an item to a acceptable amount, and I think that this is a big boost to it.
I mean, the side shop changes. The fact that you get it all at the secret shop is largely irrelevant to the fact that it now gives what? It gives an extra 150 health for 300 gold cheaper. That's a big deal. That's an efficacy increase because nobody really bought heart for the damage. People bought heart to tank up for sieging potential, like strength heroes like Lifestealer, Sven, Bristle. You buy it to absolutely tank up to the max and make it so you regen. You don't ever have to go back to base. Like you just always are at full health if you're not actively fighting. And just increasing this raw health it gets for less cost, it's just a big buff. And I think it's because you literally saw it on, what, 4 heroes? Spectre, Bristle, Sven, and Lifestealer. Those are the only 3 heroes I ever saw it on, except in one game where it was a Lion, and it was against like some super farm Naga, and the Lion straight up bought a heart, so he would not die to illusions. Because otherwise, seriously, the Naga illusions killed him. And this is a guy who had max level mana drain, so every like however many seconds could kill an illusion instantly. He'd kill 2 illusions, and Naga had so many illusions, the illusions would still just kill him. They'd just kill him. It was sad. So Lion got a heart, and then he was fine. Relative. I mean, he was still a Lion, but you know.
Yeah, right. I mean, he's still pretty squishy. That's cool though. I think that, I mean, obviously that is a buff in general. I get really excited about the little things like that.
Well, even the build-up's nice. So in a triage, I like it whenever you can build more items, like you can buy economies. So one of the big things is, and this isn't as relevant because you can't actually buy it in the base, but items that you can buy in the base when you're stuck in your base and you have to spend all your gold, so you like to increase your power right now because you're going to lose the game. It's nice. So if you're in a situation where you want a heart in the future, but you need to spend that, you have 2,000 gold to spend to make yourself stronger right now, you can buy 2 vitality boosters and have those 2 vitality boosters in your inventory to just make you that much tankier. Instead, before you could buy one of them and say, well, I wish I could buy a Reaver, but I can't. But I need to be as strong as I possibly can be for my gold. It's like, say, your buyback's on cooldown. So, and this is the big fight. So I like that. I like it whenever they get rid of recipes and let you increment yourself with gold. It's nice.
Right, right. Heaven's Halberd got a massive buff here. It can no longer be dispelled by spell immunity. I love it. I wish that they did this a long time ago, because I think that that's kind of the purpose of the item, is that it's like, okay, if they have spell immunity, you can't cast it on them anyway. So it should be a mind game of like, okay, are they going to cast it on me? Kind of back and forth. Are they going to do BKB immediately? Am I going to be caught out? And then they're going to get their full attack, like versus an Ursa or a Troll, and they're going to beat the crap out of me? Or can I like bait it out? Or, you know, there's so much like play there that you can have, and I think that this is a good change that has been needed for a long time. And plus, I just like Heaven's Halberd. I like the mischance. I like the idea of it. I want to see Sage getting a little bit of love. So
yeah, I like it too. The funny thing is that like a couple of the heroes that this directly counters actually build Halberd. So I always thought that's kind of funny. So like Lifestealer, Heaven's Halberd is actually a really nice counter to Lifestealer now because he can't dispel it. Same with Ursa. Who is in Ursa, Lifestealer, Huskar. Like, these are all heroes that are actually completely countered by Heaven's Halberd now, even though they were natural BKB or had a BKB-like ability. And then it's also like a buff to them because they're the heroes that would build it. I just think it's kind of Heaven's Halberd is always kind of a weird item because the very heroes that build it are the ones that do not want to be disarmed under any circumstances in a fight.
One hero that it doesn't help, though, is OD. And if OD gets disarmed, it is disastrous. So
yeah, OD, Medusa when she gets to be raid boss status.
Yep.
I think are the two that came to my mind that were like teams are just itemizing to deal with them. So,
and it's always interesting whenever something comes back into play because no one really bought Heaven's Halberd unless they were trying to get rid of Lincoln's was a possible thing to do. You could cast it on someone, break Lincoln's.
Here's actually something that I think is really key because this plays into a match I saw today, and I think it was on this patch. And obviously, this is not an itemization that they could have anticipated. So Mineski threw a 40k net lead, or 30k net worth lead, I think, maybe 40k. Yes, because they had a TA Urza lineup against Veno Slark, two heroes that actually hard counter, and once they go late, they hard counter the TA, and Ursa doesn't scale that well late. So like they had a Legion, a Nyx, and a Warlock. So they had great counter engage. Any of their heroes could conceivably counter engage and save anyone, pretty much, of their cores. And not only that, Clutch Gamers played great. Clutch Gamers is qualified for 4 lands now. They're great. They're the story of Dota as far as like teams you should be paying attention to, far more than anyone else, just because they're a new team, not new players, but new team, relatively. But this Slark, they would hex Slark, but Legion was always there to stop it. So Slark would go in, he'd get hexed, or he'd get stunned, and Legion was very good about always being there to purge him, or they had a Lotus Orb on him immediately, even though they had a hex on the team, on a Prophet, I believe, and all this stuff. And it's one of those things where Halberd, since it can't be dispelled, would allow them to disable the Slark. Now, it wouldn't allow them to not be defensive with his cooldown, so it doesn't really solve their solution, but it made me think this is actually one of those situations where this new item opens up a new chance of play, because it's something that you can't have your team just get rid of something, potentially with Heaven's Halberd, which is something I like. And it's one of the things that has made Hex a lot worse, is now there's just more ways to protect people from it than there used to be.
Right. It says on the tip, it says that other dispels don't already work on it, like Manta. Now, do the dispels like Lotus or Abaddon?
Abaddon's a simple is a weak dispel, or no, the Lotus is a weak dispel. It does not work on it. Abaddon and Legions are strong dispels. Okay. I do not know if strong dispels work on it. I can look it up, but honestly, it's really niche.
Yeah, it's just an interesting thought that passed through my head.
Flub, I'm gonna have to mute my mic for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. So 2 things I'm excited to talk about. Hopefully Fafnir can comment on these when he gets back, but I'm gonna kind of run through them myself, and we'll just see what's going on. So Helm of the Dominator has now been it now uses a Ring of Health instead of the 800 gold recipe. Very, very useful to build up on the side shop. Something that's useful that you can grab and help out your team. Its health regeneration has been increased from 8 to 10. So not only is it this better item that's easier to build and has pieces in general. I hate recipes, and it's like Fafnir said, if you have something that you can help build for your item, that has an actual component that is useful, you feel better about spending that money than just buying a recipe, because recipes are like the things that you buy if you have to and you're going to go down and you still have buyback money. And this is just a better use of your time. And if you die twice in a row, it's not well, I mean, if you die twice in a row, it's bad in general, so you don't want that to happen. I love that you have to use a health regen for the item, and with being able to convert the creeps, very nice to be able to convert a catapult once again and use it in that offensive manner. So I really like this item. I think it's going to see a resurgence again. I think that especially possibly you could use it as a off lane once again, use it on like people like Darkseer and things like that. There's just with having the ability of taking away the usefulness of what Midas can do. If Midas is still popular, then probably not. But it's cool. It's cool. I like it. Mask of Madness now requires a quarterstaff instead of a 700 gold recipe. Once again, kind of doing a little bit change up. So now it provides plus 20 damage and plus 10 attack speed. And its Berserk active speed bonus reduces from 120 to 110, which is really actually okay. It's not that crazy of a minus. It provides more damage and generally attack speed for when you're not using it. So it's great. I love this change, and it can be disassembled now. That is one of the biggest things about this. Like Mask of Madness is one of those items that when you get to late game, you can't be taking that extra damage. You can't be taking that minus armor to your hero. So what do? They make it disassemblable, and you can turn it into a a great item that can make you super tanky by going into Satanic, and then using the quarterstaff into hopefully maybe going into like a Bloodthorn or something that's just as useful, going into maybe a butterfly or things like that. Just a lot of use here. I am super impressed with both Mask of Madness change and Helm of the Dominator change. Just great in general. I think these items are going to start coming out in force. There's going to be I'm going to be very surprised if there's not one Helm of the Dominator or Mask of Madness in every game. Faf, I can hear you. Do you have any thoughts on these two items here?
Yeah, I mean, it just means that Mask of Madness in particular on any butterfly builder becomes a 100% viable option now, because you can disassemble it. Even in non-butterfly builders, it's still reasonable to get, because you can turn it into that Satanic if you want the Satanic late game. But like particularly for Luna, for Sniper, for Gyrocopter, there's Medusa potentially. Sometimes some games call for a Satanic build with her. Particularly if there's like an AM, you actually just don't want to build up your int pool, but you still need to be tanky because that's how the hero is balanced. So I really quite like the change. The Helm of the Dominator one I love as a change, because Helm of the Dominator used to work so well because you could get it was excellent for laning as well as for what it became for the cost. Where now, because of the recipe costs and prior to this patch and the way headdresses were nerfed, like it wasn't as good laning, but now that it requires a ring of health, so instead to get that casual regen in lane that you need before you complete your item to survive, that ring of health becomes a huge value, and it gives you a place to put the ring of health without wasting it. And Helm of the Dominator provides great mid-game value. So I really like what they're doing in that, giving you more tools to survive in the lane, because I also think there's going to be more harass in the lane. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's a good point about, but being able to go into Gyro and Luna. Those are definitely two heroes that I would build Butterfly and Satanic on very easily. Maybe even go into like Troll, things like that. A lot of possibility here. We have the next few items change up a little bit about the game. Obviously, they've been powerful in the past. Not necessarily Morbid Mask, but Morbid Mask has been reduced from 1,200 to 1,100, and its base bonus damage has been decreased from 15 plus 15 to plus 10. The Solar Crest there's a bit of a change to Solar Crest. So Solar Crest has the additional removal reduced from 12 to 10, from 12 to 10. So it's gonna last a little bit less. And
no,
oh, I'm sorry. What? So it's not gonna last
instead of getting 12 armor on the item as a base stat, you get 10.
Oh,
and
okay.
And then similarly, when you put the debuff, it's going to be reduced by 10 instead of 12. So instead of going from 7 to 12 armor with the upgrade, it now goes from 7 to 10. So basically, it's losing 2 armor offensively and defensively.
Right. My bad. And then Solar Crest has a different change for mischance. It doesn't give mischance on the person. It actually gives the attacker, the one that you debuff, it gives attackers on that person True Strike. So it's kind of not a offensively defensive tool, but a defensively offense tool. So if you put it on someone, you're going to reduce their armor, and you're going to have a 25% chance to True Strike them instead of the mischance that they're going to have versus all your team. This is a really weird idea, because basically it's going to, if you're like attacking on high ground, it could help for that by giving them a 25% chance to True Strike instead of the general idea of True Strike is to always hit. It's a little weird that it's going to be 25%, and it's kind of a debuff to the item in general, but I don't think it's enough of a debuff where you're not going to see the item anymore. I still think it has its uses and it has its place. Faf, how do you feel about the item and more?
I like the armor change. This is actually the change that I predicted. I figured it would get a duration change or a mana cost, or the armor would just go down because it went from 7 to 12. So you got 5 armor for the addition of the evasion plus increased mana. So it's an incremental nerf. I actually hate the mischance to true strike chance because it's not reliable. So I don't think people care. I don't think it enters the calculations. They made a similar change with Atos, and again, I don't think it's something. It's still RNG dependent, and 25% to not miss on a 30% evasion proc, it just ends up being still very RNG based, and it's not a big enough change to make it reliable. I'm fine with them removing the blind on the item. It was too good offensively. I just don't like this whole percentage chance to true strike. It's the same thing with sniper. One of the reasons sniper's so strong is headshot shots don't miss, like they can't. So if your headshot procs, you're gonna hit. So he kind of has a little bit of a built-in MKB kind of already. So it's just one of those things where I don't like it because it's not intuitive and it doesn't let you make clean itemization decisions as a thing. It's just like an additional bonus. Okay, whatever. Honestly, they could remove the blind chance entirely, and I would still think it'd be a great item if it just gave you evasion and then the only armor modifier transferred. So
yeah, definitely.
Because you keep the mana regen, why couldn't you just keep the evasion on yourself?
Yeah, that would I feel like that would make more sense. The moon shard has been changed a little bit. It now gives half of the bonus vision when consumed. The Necronomicon has been changed from 40 to 45 for its duration, for the creeps being out. Observer wards have been reduced. The cost of them is now only 60 instead of 65. I could go on and on about this, so I'm going to let you go first about the whole Moonshard and Necronomicon thing, because I'm going to talk about wards for a while.
Okay. The one thing I'll say about wards before you do, I guarantee the Fairy Fire change was one of the combinations. They wanted to allow supports to buy some number of wards with Fairy Fires. Like, the 5 gold change is very specific. But anyways, Moonshard, I like the buff to Moonshard. I think anything that can buff night vision is amazingly powerful. The reason Luna isn't meta anymore is because when she uses Eclipse, she can't see far enough, so she gets fogged all the time at low levels of her aura. So she actually doesn't kill people unless they have a ward down or you have immaculate vision because they're right up in your face. So you can't chase people down with Eclipse anymore. They fog you. And so anytime you can get additional night vision on a hero, it's an amazingly powerful thing, and I love it. Like, I love the fact that Slark has great night vision. It makes the hero super scary. Same with Night Stalker. It just makes them scary and harder to gank at night. So I love it. I like holding a casual Moonshard for the night vision was something I think was kind of undervalued, but you could never justify it, so I like it. The Necronomicon thing, I think they're just trying to buff the item. Even Beastmasters don't get it anymore. They get Solar Crest, Blink, and just not get Necro. So when you're, or same with Lycans. So I think anytime an item is no longer picked up in lieu of another, they just start buffing that item. So you'll see some classic Necro heroes try them again. I don't think it will work out, but we'll see.
Maybe it will. I have some faith in the. Well, it's also there for. It's just not the end-all be-all item that it once was. Like
no.
Solar Crest was like Solar Crest is better because obviously it makes them take more damage with the whole negative armor and having all these creeps beat up on them. The thing is though, is Necronomicon is really strong to have the ability of
it buffs the split push, yeah,
and True Sight gives you True Sight.
Oh yeah, and the dewarding. It lets you deward with it.
Right. So there's still a use for it, and I'm glad that they're buffing it by small incremental amounts instead of by a big bump because Solar Crest was so big. I think it's better for the item to still stay a little in the back of like, oh, okay, they have these type of heroes or this type of game plan where they have to depend on making sure that they have sight on the map. Then this is the item for us, and I like that potential of what it can be. Now Moonshard I don't really ever build. I build it for other people, and that's cool. I give it to people to consume. And
hey man, it's a buff for Puck.
Yeah, it's buff for Puck, and it's buff for Bounty Hunter whenever I play Bounty Hunter, and I start giving away them later on in the game.
Actually, this is a big buff for late game Puck, because she gets a Moon Shard pretty quick, and the ability to see people and catch them is like, that's Puck's thing.
True. True. I didn't even think about that. And I mean, she does it. I mean, she does it for the whole team pretty much too. It's like,
well, yeah, but I mean,
stats
she
thing.
give it to herself second usually, but you might actually give it to her first now, because a lot of times in those late game Puck games, it's all about you have to catch someone or catch the puck, and giving her a little bit more vision, or it a little more vision, is game changing.
Definitely. The Observer Ward has been changed up, like I was saying, from 65 to 60, and the reason why I was like so freaking out about this is because obviously as a support, every cent matters, and that's a lot of the ideology of what you do as a captain, is you take the very beginning stage and you plan for your supports to buy the perfect amount of items to go into battle, whether it's going into this person is picking up smoke, this person is picking up sentry ward, things like that. And I know it's only 5 gold, but if you can play around with the numbers, 5 gold from that, 5 gold from the what you said, fairy fire earlier, and the changes in general that are happening to the offlane not being able to go into the jungle and farm his way out of it as easily, not being able to have the availability at the shrines to be able to heal up, and having the mango being cheaper. They have all these minor buffs to supports that are going to make them very strong and pushing it out potential. I think that the availability of making everything cost so much less, you're going to see actual supports coming out with more throughout the game and not be as poor starved. You're not going to have that 5 who just has boots and wards until the barracks goes down, like I was talking about before. So many times I've had those games where I'm just sitting there with boots and sentries and obs because no one's buying them for me. I have to buy them all the time, and my 4 is never helping me out. So I'm glad that they're lessening the load a little bit on 5s whenever I play pubs, and significantly helping out whenever someone does help out. It's not as big of a deal. I know it's only 5 gold, and people are going to say, "Oh, it's not that crazy," but it is. It matters a ton in the beginning for support. The changes that are the next 3 changes that are available are Radiance. Radiance now does less damage with illusions, like Fafnir was saying. So you're going to be. I think it's a pretty big nerf, obviously, to Naga, Alchemist, the whole idea of building these Manta heroes that get the Radiance, moving them out. They're just trying to stop the way that OG have been playing for forever, and stop the way that people have just been winning tournaments. I personally hate Illusion Radiance. I wish that Illusion Radiance did like 20 damage, and I know that they'll never put it down that low. They want it to still be useful to some extent, but I'm tired of this gaming style, and I want it to change. We also have Refresher Orb, now recharges all charged abilities, which is pretty cool. So if you get the idea of, if you're going into Sniper, and you get the 7 charges at the end, and you use all 7 to like make a team fight in crazy weird, and putting down all 7 shrapnel charges, making everyone slow across the map, unless they have like a Refresher Orb and Refresher ABKB at that point, to be able to run away. The cool thing is that it will refresh all of those charges if you have it as like a slot item, you know, whenever you're 8 slotted or whatever. It could be a useful thing to have on people like Sniper, or you could do it on Shadow Demon for you kill everyone in a team fight and then kind of move from there.
Bloodseeker.
Bloodseeker is also one too. I think his ultimate comes up pretty quickly though. Shadow Demon does too. But it could, you're right, it could be a really good 7th or...
Yeah, I mean, a core Bloodseeker is going to have a BKB. You probably get it for the BKB at that point because you want to have a 10-second BKB again. Mm-hmm. But, like, the fact that you could, if you, when you're refreshing to get your BKB back, you can then rupture somebody, 2 more people as they try to run away or as you try to run away. It's meaningful.
Right. And I'm actually going to skip Rod of Atos because that's going to... Well, no, I'm going to continue with Rod of Atos, and we're going to talk about that too in this section. It used to cost 2 Staff of Wizardries and a Vitality Booster. Now it only costs a Staff of Wizardry, 2 bracers, and a 1,100 recipe. Which it sucks that you have to spend 1,100 on a recipe, but the 2 bracers are going to be something that are going to be easier to build up, and this is kind of a big buff to the item for supports, because they have a way to slowly build up this item to a certain point. If you have 2 bracers as a support, you're generally going to be living longer, you're going to come out of these fights better, you're going to have a little bit more mana, and you can hopefully be able to transition that into the Staff of Wizardry and the recipe. Then you have a root that just generally locks people down. Good to have some type of CC on your support. So it just gives a bigger transition to what it can do. Also, its stats are much different. Its stats were originally plus 32 intelligence and plus 350 health. Now it's plus 20 intelligence, plus 15 strength, plus 6 agility, and plus 6 damage. So offers quite a bit of a difference, and it kind of reminds me of the changes that happened a long time ago with drums, where drums kind of turned into more of a buff every stat thing. And I feel like that's a lot of the items in the patch. They're not so focused on a certain stat anymore. They're kind of branching out and making everything good about the hero. Faf, I know I just went through a lot there, so why don't you go through your thoughts and feelings on these different items? Probably just Rod of Atos, since you probably talked about
Atos is the only thing I care about. I love the change. It makes it way better on a silencer, particularly a core silencer, because he's squishy and like Atos, and he not only that, like he utilizes that agility, that damage, and that strength. That's are all good for him, and the build-up's nice because a core silencer typically you'd have the problem where you'd just be building up the casual bracers is nice. It definitely is a nicer support item. The hero I'm actually probably think would be most excited for, and this is entirely lineup based, but I feel like Night Stalker is a lineup based hero. Like other than Axe, he just builds what you need. Is that this makes this a really attractive item on strength heroes that need mana and need some sort of extra like utility and can have an open build. And I feel like Night Stalker kind of fits that because he has a silence and a mini stun and a slow, and the root just gives him another way to control things. And he would like Night Stalkers would love to be able to justify, oh, I just got 2 bracers, so now I really kill people. And I think that's kind of what it is. So like you could go phase, earn 2 bracers, and then you could build an Atos if you need to catch blink heroes because it disables blink. Now, and then you can catch them even if they have Lincolns, you can pop their Lincolns and then catch them with this. Like, it just makes it harder to counterplay what a Night Stalker does. And Night Stalker really does need that int because he has a lot of spammable spells and his int game's kind of crap.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense. I didn't think of it like that. That's really interesting.
I thought you'd be all about getting it on Night Stalker now because like basically it makes Atos a completely viable option on strength heroes because 15 strength is a lot, and the ability to have 2 bracers on strength heroes that need stats or can utilize stats aggressively is very, very useful. Timbersaw is another hero that I was thinking of where he potentially you could get it. I don't think it's ideal because I think like Hex and some stuff like that might just be better on the hero. But the ability to buy just 2 bracers on a Timbersaw is great because the main thing he suffers from is his vulnerability to being bursted because he has a low HP pool. But with 2 bracers like a Timbersaw, it becomes insanely tanky.
It's true. It's true. I was thinking more of the aspect of being able to live with it, with the kind of supports that you need those buildups on. Maybe someone like Dazzle. Rubik, these heroes that you could use an extra way of locking people down, but still having a survivable item that helps you kind of give that buffer. I also feel like you're right. I didn't go into the strength because I see a lot of the strength heroes that I pick. They already have a lot of lockdown. Now, Night Stalker is definitely the exception, but I don't really think I would want it on necessarily Ogre. Because I need to do other things besides that. Because I have a stun, I have a slow. If I'm on, let's say Earthshaker, he's made of stun. You have Earth Spirit, made of stun and CC. Like I feel like there's a lot of different things that could be cool about it and putting it on people. But when I looked at it at first, I was like, I just couldn't see the use for having a root when I have like 5 billion stuns on these strength heroes.
No, that makes sense. And maybe Night Stalker is the only Night Stalker and Timbersaw, because those are the two strength heroes that don't have that control, and that's why I think those are the instant guys I think of. So those are the two that I think of could use it. So maybe it's like a support item, like, or interior item still, and then just maybe those two pick it up situationally.
Now, two heroes that I did think of that I thought would be kind of cool to have it on, like you said, Timbersaw. I actually like. I know I'm like feel like I'm talking about this hero all the time, but Bristleback could be kind of cool. Gives him a lot of intelligence, gives him a lot of strength, some damage. You know.
No,
he gets
that's actually great. I didn't think of Bristle, but that's because I always think of Bristle as having like I'm still in the mode of Atos is not hard lockdown because of you know, he already has goo, and if he can start gooing you, usually he can run you down. But Atos kind of changes the calculation in that he can disable blinks. And also it gives him instant catch to get like 2 goos on someone and then close the gap. And so like even if they have a force staff, they're still kind of hosed potentially.
Right. So
yeah, actually with Bristle that'd be great. Yeah, Bristle, similar to Night Stalker, is one of those heroes that can utilize those stats to aggressively hurt people with 2 bracers. So I'm gonna have to try it on him. I just played a Bristle game and I should have thought of that. I did do the new heart, and that was great.
Well, the other hero I was thinking of it on was actually kind of a similar idea. The Underlord, man. If you get your pit off, you pit someone, then you throw on your Rod of Atos, they're stuck again, and then by that time again, your pit's going to come up, stun them again, and so they're just like sitting in your rain of fire for forever. And he needs the mana to be able to exist. He needs a lot of, you know, he needs the strength, he needs the stats in general. So yeah. I was kind of going down the opposite end. I was like, okay, it could make people survive, and then it could make certain offlaners crazy good. Whereas you're like, oh yeah, the roaming support guys. And honestly, with the changes that have been made to Night Stalker, I like your idea probably better than any of mine. Night Stalker with Rod of Atos sounds ridiculous. So
yeah, I wouldn't get it like I get it like against Weaver or Ember, or Storm, these heroes that roots actually destroy, where they're as good as a stun because they're so reliant on their ability to just escape with some sort of mechanism root disables. But yeah, I really like it on Underlord as well. Now that I think about it, like Underlord needs to got other issues. I'm not sure where he'll fit in this new meta, but like just him being able to buy a stat item is really nice. Maybe Abaddon too, because one of the things that I found with Underlord and Abaddon and Bristle, you can do a lot of items that don't actually give you any stats, like Blade Mail, Crimson Guard, and then Treads, and then like your only source of stats is Treads and a wand or something.
Yeah.
And you actually are really stat poor. And maybe Atos is like the strength hero stat item now, as long as they're also like a mana user. And those heroes, both heroes fit that criteria very well. So I'm going to definitely be buying it a lot in the next few days as I try, to figure stuff out.
All right, me too, man. Me too. I'm going to have to talk about it next time on draft or flip date. There's some changes to Sage and Yasha. Sage and Yasha are now both costs, not the item Sage and Yasha, but Sage costs 100 less and Yasha costs 100 less. The attack speed has also been reduced by Yasha by 15 to 10, and the recipe cost for Manta style has been reduced by 100. I don't know.
Increased.
I'm sorry, has been increased by 100.
So Manta style costs the same, but is a little worse.
Yeah. Well, it's been worse too because all the illusion changes as well. So,
yes, yeah, it's worse by a lot.
I'm really happy about that. I mean, obviously we keep hitting on it, so I'm not going to talk about it for too long, but it's been the main item, I feel like, since like TI2, maybe? It seems like one of the most important items that's been in Dota forever, and I hope that it kind of pulls back to the backside, and hopefully these other items have their moment in the sun. We got a little bit of other changes here. We got Scythe of Vice cooldown being reduced from 25 to 22. The Shiva's Guard recipe has been increased from 600 to 650. And Silver Edge recipe has been increased from 500 to 700. Nothing too big there. Scythe of Vice might be a little bit more useful because you can get it up almost, I mean, it's 4 seconds more, but it's almost as much as your Bloodthorn and honestly, I would like it to be one of the end-all be-all items, and it's not right now. So I appreciate them trying to make it a little bit better. I actually think it maybe needs a little bit more, maybe like 20 seconds, but that would probably be too big of a deal to increase it by 20%.
Remember that cooldown reduction is now a thing.
True.
So
True.
anytime you get low cooldown items, the effect of them is amplified immensely by cooldown reduction. Look at what the Abaddon Octarine plus his talent does to that hero. It enhances his Blade game potential immensely. So I think item cooldowns are something that they're a little more careful about now, or like he definitely is tweaking more and more just because of cooldown reduction. Like Bloodthorn with the cooldown reduction on a lot of the heroes that could build it was seriously up almost 100% of the time.
Yeah,
I think that's why it's getting nerfed. And I think they're trying to move Scythe of Ice to where it's up more than once per fight. So
yeah, makes sense. All right, so the last two, we already talked about Soul Ring, so the last one is Urn of Shadows. Pretty big change here, actually. So it still works, it now works like Salve, where the regen works more properly, and it doesn't have like little ticks that it ticks on. So it's a little better on that side of things, and its recipe is completely different now. So it used to cost a Sage Mask, 2 gauntlets, and a recipe. So it was about 875 worth. And now it costs 875 once again, but it's an infused raindrop, circlet, a ring of protection, and a recipe. And instead of the 6 strength that it gave before and the 50% regen, it now gives +2 to all stats, +2 armor, and 1.0 mana regen with all the things that it used to do. So a very big difference on what the item gives base stat wise, and it's really cool because you can actually have one little thing left in your infused raindrops, one little stat thing, and you can combine it into a whole new item. You don't have to have a fresh new raindrop. So if you can survive and help it and use it to help you survive to a certain point, and then, oh man, it's about to be used up, all right, let's just have that guy get a urn if he has a bunch of extra money.
So you can also just backpack it. Even if you want a new one, you can backpack your one charge one to make sure you don't use it up. I 100% would be backpacking it if I still plan on getting an urn. But so my thoughts on this change is that it actually makes it more of a core item, less as a support item, because most supports have a big int pool, so the going to a flat mana regen will be a negative to the item. And additionally, most supports, all you care about is staying alive to cast your spells. And usually their int pool is already kind of balanced around them having enough mana, unless you're Crystal Maiden and Ice Rock hates you. So the change from 6 strength to 2 all stats is kind of a negative. I think for aggressive cores, this item got a lot better. Flat mana regen for Agi heroes in particular is way better than percent mana regen, because most Agi heroes that are in the carry position who are aggressive have garbage mana regen int gain. Like Troll, for example. You could easily see Trolls picking up Urn now, because you get a value of 2 all stats, you get 2 armor, 2 things Troll actually needs, and the flat mana regen. So instead of maybe Vlad's, you could get an Urn and a casual Morbid Mask, and then if you chose not to go the Vlad's path, and it still provides you that mana regen you need, but it's cheaper than an Aquila, and you get the utility out of the Urn, which I think every team needs. So I think it kind of makes it more of a core item, but supports would still get it if no core wants to get it. Like, I think this item is much better for Spectre now, because I'd rather have 2 all stats and 2 armor and fixed mana regen than 6 strength and the percentage mana regen. It's just better for Spectre now in general. And then you could also justify building on Gyro. Any sort of carry that gets active early and kind of, you think about buying an Aquila on, you can now get an Urn instead if your team isn't already getting one.
Yeah, true. I just like the potential of, okay, Raindrops is an item that's key part of the game now. Let's make it so that we have a thing that we can build into it, make it into a better, more usable item that's really easy to build for everyone. And like I've always hated whenever we don't have an Urn on the team, and I'm always the one to suggest it, but there's sometimes where Urn just didn't work on your hero, like you were saying. Sometimes a 6 strength and 50% mana regen is not the best on that hero. Like, Rubik. I hated building Erdon Rubik before. It was okay because it still made him helped him live, and he still had some type of mana regen. But it really didn't really fit what his playstyle was supposed to be. So it's really cool to have an item that anyone can pick up. It's great, and I mean, it's supposed to be that type of item anyway, to be able to heal up a teammate a little bit outside of a fight. So, or just do some tick damage. I love having the availability so that you don't have to pick up tick damage as a support. You can mitigate it to everyone on the team. Alright, so let's talk about heroes. What everyone loves, the flashier part of the draft. Not of the draft, of the patch. So we're going to start off with Alchemist. Alchemist's Unstable Concoction cooldown has been increased from 16 to 22, 20, 18, 16. His Unstable Concoction AoE has been increased from 175 to 200. Grievel's Greed bonus has been reduced from 6, or base gold bonus, has been reduced from 6, 8, 10, 12 to a straight 4. The Grievel Greed bonus per stack has been increased by 3 to 4. And the Grievel Greed bonus cap has been rescaled from 12, 20, 28, 36 to 16, 20, 24, 28. So basically guaranteeing that you can't just stack up the jungle like you used to before the 7.0 patch, and just put Alchemist in the jungle after all the camps are stacked, and just get massive amounts of gold and come out swinging from there. Be able to get his Radiance up really quick and do the thing that we all know Alchemists used to love to do. They've not only nerfed the illusions, but they've nerfed his potential of getting a bunch of gold really fast. Very needed change. I like his potential for late game, but it shouldn't have been that strong. Faf, you play Alchemist probably more than I do. Or maybe you don't. I don't know.
I do. He's one of the mids I play. It's just nerfing the crap out of him. Like, he is still good, and like this specifically nerfs like the Battle Elk, who would get Battle Elks would still get a value point in Concoction, actually, and then the value point in Concoction provided most of what you wanted already with the cooldown, and now it's trying to make it so like you should actually do want to put more Concoctions less of a value point. It's more something you want to max for Battle Elk. And then, the hero just got nerfed. So because OG was winning with it all the time, and they nerfed it before, but like he was still being picked and still could dominate games. So they nerfed him again a little bit. So the one thing I will have to say, Flop, is I think I am going to have to be done for the evening.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think I've hit my limit of the amount of time I'll be able to be talking with you. So.
All right. Well, it was fun having you. Thanks for being on.
Yeah.
Appreciate you being here, and I'll catch you sometime tomorrow or something.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll be around. So, thanks for having me on. It was nice to talk about this all with you because Lord knows I've been talking about it all day, and I just wanted to keep chatting about it because it's an exciting patch.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, I'll catch you later, man.
Catch you later.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep going on with this patch. So let's talk about Ancient Apparition. It's actually one hero I was able to play, and I really, really enjoyed. Well, before I played in the patch, I was able to play today. The hero is a lot of fun now. I really, really enjoy it, and there's a lot of different heroes that got buffed that are very tanky heroes, and AA is very good versus them. Plus, the way that the lanes are working out, you can really harass people, push them out of lane with your icy touch spell that throws all those crazy little ice balls out with massive amounts of magic damage. Forgetting the name right now, spacing on it. His attack range has been increased by 600 to 675. So that 675 helps out with this harassment, obviously, makes him a lot better at that. His Ice Vortex movement modifier has a positive effect on Ancient Apparition now. So you get that bonus move speed. You can actually lay it down right in front of you. You'll get the bonus move speed, move away, and they'll be slowed down. So you can kind of double the effect of its effectiveness if you put it in the right space. Very, very useful. It's Its magic damage also is incredible. The increased magic damage with all these different availability of increasing magic damage. I think the heroes may be useful again, just for how the rotation goes. I'm going to be playing a lot of Ancient Apparition. The replaced talent, the replaced respawn talent, was a level 20 respawn talent. So they changed it to plus 8% on Ice Vortex slow and resistance. Crazy good. Really, really good. Makes you faster, makes them slower, obviously, and increases your magic difference to an insane amount. Just absolutely incredible. I really, really can't stress enough how much I enjoy this hero now. Axe rework. His scepter got reworked, and it's the coolest scepter rework I've seen probably yet. It is insane. So he causes battle hunger for his scepter. He causes battle hunger to reduce enemy total output damage by 30%. That alone is really cool. He then applies battle hunger on enemy heroes within 700 AoE after a successful calling blade. Reduces all output, total damage output. So spellcasters, melee, just attackers, whatever. If you're just attacking someone, everybody on the enemy team is going to have a reduced. If they're within 700 range, are going to have a reduced AOE amount. Honestly, this is going to be like something that I feel is core. You build up your blink and you build up the blade mail, and you go for this almost 80% of the time, and that's a rarity for me to say something that's going to come up almost that much. It is an incredible rework and something that you guys should consider whenever you play Axe. Bane. Bane's been reworked. He's been reworked into his Aghanim Scepter now causes Brain Sap to have a 1.5 second cooldown. Crazy. And it pierces spell immunity. So he can just do massive amounts of damage really quickly. Just spam out someone, lower their health down crazy amounts. It's pure damage too, with piercing spell immunity. Just, I don't know. I think that Bane has the potential of doing what he used to do as it was Succubus and Han, where you could be mid and you would have the potential of getting a Aghanim Scepter because it lasted forever and did so much damage. I just like him as a damage dealer in general. He can just do so much pure damage and exist and take people out of fights, while making mid very hard to last hit. And if you can outlast hit someone, make them attack with a major minus while you're taking all of the creeps, getting all the experience, taking down the giving yourself the 30% for your denies, and getting all those extra last hits that already set up mid. He has a lot of potential there. And not only that, they've increased two other things about the hero. So base Agi and Intel now have been increased for him to match the strength growth as well. So he just is a better hero as time moves on for everything. And that's a big buff. That's a big buff to give a minor buff to each one of his stats. His Fiend's Grip actually deals damage every 0.5 seconds and instead of every second. Makes it so that it's probably going to deal enough damage so that it's going to be more meaningful and it's going to do more damage before it's interrupted. Very good. I'm really liking these Bane changes. Another hero that's pretty crazy is Beastmaster. Beastmaster's got Wild Axe cast range, has been increased from 1,300 to 1,500. His mana cost for Wild Axe has been rescaled as well from 120 to 105, 110, 115, and 120. So it's more of a bigger thing to have Wild Axes at level 1, so that you have a way to to cast, but you can kind of spam it out a little bit more. It's a little bit better for him, but that's actually not the craziest thing. The craziest thing is his respawn talent that got changed, and it's his level 15 talent, mind you, but it's been changed to +1 summoned boar. So you can get 2 boars every time you summon, and you could get the potential of having 4 boars. They all slow, they slow a ton, and you could just chunk down someone. They're not moving if they don't have magic immunity. They're just going to sit there and take so many hits. It's got 4 instances of damage because there's 4 people attacking. The only way that they're going to stop it is having big AoE nukes that are going to hit an area. Very, very cool. I love this change to Beastmaster, and I think he's going to be played quite a bit. I would look out for him in the future. Bloodseeker. His Blood Right got changed a little bit, nothing too crazy. Blood Right cooldown went from 25, 21, 17, 13 to 18, 16, 14, 12. So a little bit of a buff there. His beginning Blood Right is something I would generally skip whenever I went to the jungle, because that's pretty much what Bloodseeker did. And it's good that they're giving it a useful talent to be able to do something in the beginning. Also, Blood Right's cast point has been reduced from 0.4 to 0.3, so it gets up a little bit quicker as well. And he doesn't go, ooh, so much as when he's like casting the spell. The Bounty Hunter change basically fixed something that should have existed in the first place. His fixture can toss Scepter, interrupting the chain. Jeez, I'm not going to read right off of this. Basically, if there was a spell immune target, it would interrupt the chain of Shuriken toss whenever you had Scepter. So when you have Scepter, it bounces to multiple targets and like bounces twice. So it would interrupt the chain when you had someone who had spell immunity. It would hit it and then it'd be absorbed by it. It's just going to bounce off of it. Still not going to do damage to the person. It's just going to continue on to hurt the other people around it. Makes a lot of sense. Should have existed to begin with. So, and plus, who buys Scepter on Bounty Hunter, really? Whatever. It's not that big a deal. Sorry, I gotta drink water. When I'm the only one talking, it dries out your mouth real quick. And I am gonna be in trouble here in a bit, because my throat's hurting. Alright, so we got Brewmaster. Brewmaster's got changed up a little bit. His Drunken Haze cast point has been reduced from 0.3 to 0.2. His Drunken Haze duration has been increased from 4 to 4.5. And his Hurling Boulder cast point has been reduced from 0.4 to 0.25. Big help there. Almost making it twice as fast. Half as slow. Yeah, there we go. The Drunken Brewmaster, the Drunken Brawler crit has been changed from 2,000. Jeez, not 2,000. That'd be insane. 200% to 230%. His respawn talent got changed from it was at level 20. It is now a 2 more seconds on Thunderclap slow. Not a lot better, but a really cool idea. I like all these different changes to these heroes that are specific to their basis idea. It's gonna make ability draft a little bit worse if you're an ability draft player, but I enjoy this type of stuff. Bristleback, the replaced talent for him was at level 20. He gets 10% lifesteal at level 20 now. I really, really enjoy that. I can't even stress how much Bristleback is so good this patch, and that's actually why I like AA, because people are picking him up and realizing that Bristleback is good this patch, and he helps shut down what Bristleback does. So, really, really great 2 heroes this patch. Chaos Knight. Chaos Knight's Reality Rift cast point has been reduced from 0.4 to 0.3, doing that a lot for heroes. Reality Rift cooldown has been changed from 24, 18, 12, 6 to 18, 14, 10, 6. Basically, at earlier levels, it's gonna be a lot less time. It's gonna be a little bit more realistic on coming up off of cooldown. Level 1 Reality Rift, as everyone knows, has always been awful. It's just going to be something that you're going to be able to do in general now. Help you out from there. We also have Chaos Strike Steel is going to be 65% to 75%, so a little bit more there. A lot more, just something to add to the hero. His illusions have been pretty nerfed by the other stuff, though, and they're nerfing them a little bit more by illusions. For Phantom Illusions, damage taken goes from 200% to 260%. So they're going to be taking a lot more damage. Chen is a hero that I was talking about, and I really like the idea of being able to grab those catapults or grab in rotation and using him a little bit less for the farming tool that he can be and using him more for the rotation tool. He has a lot of potential, especially with this idea that's coming up here. Holy Persuasion cooldown has been reduced. It was this craziness where it was 30, 26, 22, 18, and it's just a flat 10. 10 seconds for you to get a new creep. Very, very awesome. You can just pick up a creep, kill the creeps in it, creep camp in it, move on real quickly. You can get your whole creep arsenal when it's all the way up to level 4. You can get it in 40 seconds. That is insane. It's very hard to be able to go into the jungle and get enough creeps to be able to go into to have them for a team fight whenever you get knocked out from losing a team fight. You can't go into your jungle to pick it up while they're pushing down a lane. Now you can do it a little bit easier, or you're just potential on roaming and picking stuff up. Could be a lot of fun. You can go pick up a siege creep and help people push. There's a lot of potential there. I really also like the idea of being in a lane, picking up a siege creep in the very beginning, helping it go down the lane and attack, and then TPing to another lane, going down there and attacking there. And if they attack the lane with the 2 siege creeps that you put the Chen in, like he goes off lane, he grabs a siege creep and puts it next to your other siege creep, and they're going to go push down that lane with just creeps. And if they go and they take care of that lane and are trying to take care of both lanes, then you just Holy Persuasion another siege creep and you push down there with your teammates. A lot of potential there, a lot of fun little interactions that you can do with Holy Persuasion being up so quickly. And it can put more points into other things as well, so you generally don't have to have the multiple points into it. A lot of changes that you can do with Chen. Clink's, his death pack cooldown got increased from 45, 30, 15 to 85 seconds. But the duration also has changed. The death pack duration has been increased from 35 seconds to 65 seconds. Kind of a crazy change. He's not going to be as sustainable as he once was. He's not going to be able to spam the ability and regain that health back and go back in. But he's able to eat a creep, scout it out, kind of like a Nyx assassin for 65 seconds, and move from there. It's probably really going to be 60 because you're going to be clearing the rest of the creep camp, if not like 62, and move out from there. So very similar to how Nyx could potentially play, just more of a carry type Nyx. Clockwork, his talent was a level 20 respawn talent. Sorry, gotta drink some water. And his talent got changed to 40 plus 40 battery assault damage. Really awesome with his, what is it? It's his level 25, gives him plus 10 second duration. So a lot more damage in general that Clockwork can do later in the game. I honestly would rather have the respawn talent just because I'm a little suicidal with Clockwork, and I'm a little suicidal whenever I play Dota in general with my hero, so respawn talent would have been nicer, but that's okay. They're trying to make it go away in general, so I understand. Crystal Maiden's Freezing Field cooldown has been rescaled to, it was 90, and it has now gone to 110, 100, 90. So just a little bit less often that you can spam it, use it for team fights in the very beginning. Slight nerf. They also fixed Scepter Freezing Field not interrupting targets. It didn't do the little mini stun that the spell is supposed to do whenever Scepter was running. So just little fixes here and there that should have been there in the first place. Replaced respawn talent for level 20 is now plus 50 freezing field damage. So it's a significant amount of damage because it's for every little ice blast that drops down. It's plus 50 more damage. And that can add up real quickly if you get some lucky let it goes. We also have Darkseer. Darkseer's Wall of Replica slow has been rescaled from 1 second to 0.6, 0.8, and 1 second. making Darkseer a little bit worse. I don't know. Whatever. It's not that big a deal. Dazzle rework. This is actually really funny, and I had some ideas about this guy. So Dazzle rework, his scepter now has been changed to it causes Shallow Grave to be an AoE spell of 450 units. So really cool. Obviously, you don't want to grab that if you have an axe on the other team, but it's kind of cool that you can just be like, oh, they're doing a wombo combo? Alright, you guys are going to live through it until the very end, and then hopefully we can wombo combo ourselves out of it. I can heal you up to just enough with my AoE heal spell. So really cool. I like that idea. His level 20 talent got changed. It used to be a respawn talent as well, and it got changed to plus 25 poison touch DPS. I actually think that it could be really, really fun to do like a mid dazzle again, and get the plus 25 DPS on poison touch, get all the minus armor that you can, and then grab grab the ability at the end at level 25 where it gets the 1 second cooldown for your poison touch. Well, oh man, it would be so much fun. So much fun. I can't wait. I'm going to give it a chance once, and hopefully I can talk to you about it on the full update. Disruptor. Disruptor's replaced his respawn talent at level 15 and is now plus 40 Thunderstrike damage at the intervals. So it's what? It's 5 strikes plus 40. A lot more damage. A lot more damage. So yeah, it's 20. It's 200 damage. So yeah, pretty decent. I don't think he's really meant to do damage. I think that there's a couple people like my old teammates Ursinity and Vafa. They generally loved to play Disruptor mid. I think that anybody who's crazy enough to do Disruptor mid, this could be an interesting talent for you to go down. Other than that, for support, it's really not that great. You can use the damage, but he's kind of based around everything else. Doom. Doom's getting some really good changes here. We got Doom being... Oh, I think I might have kicked out... Okay, I didn't kick out my sound. Thought I kicked out my sound for a second there. We got Scorched Earth being... its healing and damage has been rescaled from 10, 20, 30, 40 to 16, 24, 32, 40. So a little bit better in the early game. I mean, 16 health regen a second is pretty crazy to be able to give to your hero, and it'll make him very tanky in the very beginning again. Enjoy the changes. I think that he's been out of meta for way too long. Devour, his mana cost has been rescaled from 60 to 40, 50, 60, 70. Which, honestly, you only want to grab one level of it in the very beginning for Doom. That's kind of just the way you've built him for a long time. So I really enjoy that idea. I think that it's a good way to move throughout this game. Also, they've removed Critical Strike from small wolves in the jungle. Attack damage increase by the same amount. So basically, you can devour. You still want to devour the bigger guys, or primary effects allowing Doom to devour a small wolf without replacing the ability stored. So you can devour the small wolf, so you won't have to worry about getting rid of your ability. Really cool. I like it. It's good. It's a good idea for Doom. We got. I honestly think for Doom though, you can devour the siege creeps, and I know I keep freaking out about these siege creeps, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of potential for what they can do, and they do tons of damage to towers if you just let a wave go. So if you can just run in, eat a siege creep, and run out to be able to help out another lane, that can help really push the potential onto your side. So good to know. Good to know. We have Dragon Knight. Dragon Knight's Elder Dragon Frost form now has an attack slow that has been increased. It did minus 20%, now it does minus 30% to the attackers. Matches the movement speed reduction as well. So 30% movement speed it was, and now it's a 30% attack speed as well. Drow Ranger. Drow Ranger's frost arrows are no longer unique attack modifiers. Very cool change. Obviously, like we were talking about earlier, there's a lot that unique attack modifiers that have been taken away. The only really two that you need to worry about are, well, three, are Lifesteal, Anti-Mage, and OD. So those are the only ones you really need to worry about anymore. And you can probably do some pretty cool stuff with Drow. Being able to have Mjolnir proc on your actual frost arrows, being able to use them at the same time, and they won't cancel out the frost arrow, is pretty cool. That already existed. You could already do that because that wasn't a unique attack modifier, so that didn't matter. But there's some pretty cool interactions there. You can have Lifesteal on top of it, so you can still use something that's kind of crucial to the hero, being able to have a survivability item and slowing them down, whereas you used to have to like switch back and forth, making it a little bit easier to play. So a lot of fun. That'll be good. Spirit Breaker. I'm not Spirit Breaker. Earth Spirit. Same spirit. We have replaced respawn talent, and I think that this is something that should have been, since talents have been integrated into the game. They changed how Scepter worked a little bit by doing this, but it's basically magnetic grip targets allies. And I always thought that that was something that should have been. It's going to be his level 25 talent, because that's where his respawn talent was. I think that this is a much better idea for him, because it should be a talent to be able to pull people, and it should be coming in the late game where you can kind of give your hero a new way to play. As an Earth Spirit player, I love this change. It's really cool, and it's probably kind of a nerf in some ways, but I really enjoy the idea of it, so I'm all for it. Earthshaker. Earthshaker's Enchant Totem has True Strike now. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I don't see it really affecting the idea of plays. I don't think that you're going to see as many core Earthshakers or anything. You're not going to see them coming out more. Or like necessarily, like you could have it versus a PA could kind of be cool, because you could get the True Strike with the bonus damage. I think that could be really cool. I don't think that it's going to really affect his picks on stages, except for maybe versus PA. His respawn talent has been changed from level 20 to 350 Fisher range. So he has a much bigger range that he can hit and close people off. Pretty cool. It's at level 20 though, so the Earthshaker stun kind of matters a little bit before then. The mid game is kind of the biggest thing for him. Otherwise they kind of have blinks or, Force Staffs or BKBs, things to get around it. So not too big of a deal. Elder Titan. Elder Titan gets hero bonus damage has been increased. It was 12, 24, 36, 48. Now it's 15, 30, 45, 60. So a little bit of a change there. We have, it's not that big of a buff, but it is something to the hero. Also, his Earth Splitter radius has been increased from 300 to 315. And his respawn talent, which was at level 10, now gives him plus 200 mana. This is actually really good, because there's also the changes that gave him in the beginning, give him a little bit more strength as time goes on, gives him the ability to spam his spells a little bit more by giving him the increased mana, because he doesn't have a bunch of intelligence, I believe. I'll check real quick. I'm going to click on him. I'll be right there. So then he has an ability to spam his spells a little bit more. I don't think it's going to make him come out of the lower tiers of play, but it's still gonna help him out to probably get a better win percentage on pubs. Enchantress base intelligence has been increased by 2. Her slow duration, I'll go back to Elder Titan real quick. Where's his stats? Man, I clicked on the wrong site. Oh well. We'll just continue with Enchantress. Enchantress slow has been changed. Its duration was 5.5 seconds. Now it's 2.25, 3.5, 4.75, and 6. So a bigger slow at the end for duration wise, but really nerfed the whole duration of the spell. Thing is, though, Enchantress Slow has been changed from 20%, 30, 40, 50% to a flat 55% slow. So, really making the slow better, just not last quite as long. It actually lasts longer at the last level. So, a level 4 Enchant Slow is insane. Does a lot for the hero. Replace Respawn Talent with, at level 25, with a plus 6% impetus damage. So, adds more damage for the further away. Kind of the crux of the hero when they get to level 25 anyway. Makes a lot of sense. I'm not too disappointed by that one. Enigma, his respawn talent has been changed to, instead of at level 20, it is still at level 20, but it's a +1 Malefice instance. So he gets another stun on his little stun flickering. Pretty cool. Kind of the crappiest one overall, in my opinion. Faceless Void, time dilation slow, per affected cooldown has been increased from 10% to 14%. So the slow from time dilation is going to be a little bit stronger. Still doesn't really help the core problem of the hero, where roots just completely invalidate the tankiness of him and able to, jump out and take back the problem. So yeah, it's a cool buff, but I don't really want to pick him up anymore from that than I would have before this patch. Gyro. Actually, well, you know what? Mask of Madness could be kind of cool on Faceless again. And you could go Mask of Madness and kind of change it into some different things. Could be interesting. You could change it into a Vlad's and go Butterfly. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Void might be worth it. Gyro, like we said before, Mask of Madness has some cool things about it, but the hero didn't get that many buffs to him. His movement speed got increased from 315 to 320. Always good to chase people down, but it's not too crazy. His homing missile has an initial delay, and it was 3 seconds, and now it's 2.5 seconds. I hate homing missile. It's my least favorite ability. People have mixed reviews on this, and they say that they like it, they say that they don't. I think it's the most crappy thing about the hero, and really giving it that small buff isn't going to affect anything about it. Huskar gets a life break leap, has been increased from 1000 to 1200, so he gets there a little bit quicker. We have life break damage dealt / taken has been changed. And this is actually a pretty crucial thing. His was 35%. Now it's 34, which is technically lower, but I mean obviously it's only 1%, so it's not too crazy. So 34% in the very beginning, 38% from there, and then 42% on level 18. So really, really cool idea for him, because you can actually decrepify someone, increase that damage. I would love to see Huskar and Pugna be a thing again, where you can get the, what is it? The veil someone, put the decrepify on them, and then jump them. You're gonna do so much damage and like pretty much kill them instantly. So I wish I had the math man himself, Fafnir, here, or someone else, but I am not the best at math, and I just think that it could be really funny again to do that much damage. Io's respawn talent has been changed. It was level 25. Now Tether stuns for the same duration that it slows before. So pretty cool thing, giving him the ability to cancel out TPs later on. Not the craziest, but something cool that they added with talents. Jakiro, his dual breath got increased. His start radius has been increased from 200 to 225, and his end radius has been increased from 250 to 275. So just made the whole thing a little bit bigger, hits a little bit more people. Kind of cool. His respawn talent was level 25. This one's really cool. His macro pyre is pure, and it pierces spell immunity. Pierces immunity. So just, you lay this giant lake of fire down, And no matter what you do, if you stand in that lake of fire, there you are going to have trouble. So I love the idea of Magnus Jakiro, and that was actually the same game I played AA in. So a lot of fun potential with those two. Jakiro Magnus is a lot of fun. Keeper of the Light. Keeper of the Light's respawn talent got replaced. It was at level 15, and it was plus 300 chakra magic mana. That's what they changed it to. Pretty crazy. That is a ton of mana. So I'm really interested to see how much that changes the hero. See if you can like use it to help people cast their ultimates more. Could be a lot of fun. Kunkka's ghost ship now crashes where Kunkka has targeted it. So there's a lot of talk about this, and I didn't really understand it at first, but when you cast with Scepter, there could be like a weird interaction where the boat actually forms from you. It actually now it truly forms behind you, and it will go the full 2,000 distance. There was like a little bit of a weird interaction where you could cast it like in front of you, and it wouldn't hit like immediately, but it would be a lessened amount than it normally would be. So it makes sense. They're just fixing a mechanic that it should have been in the first place. Legion Commander. Overwhelming odds mana cost has been changed from 100 to 100, 110, 120, 100, 110, 120, 130. So making it harder for her to spam out one of her craziest spells in the game. A major nerf to the character, really. I loved Overwhelming Odds, and the hero itself has also been nerfed in general as an offlaner, because you can't just go to the jungle and save out your farm. She was really good at being able to use up her mana to kind of keep her alive just for a little bit, come back with like no health, go to the shrine, heal up, get her mana back, and get her health. So I think that she's been hurt a lot by the changes to the shrines and to this Overwhelming Odds change for sure. Her respawn talent, now she has a Scepter addition that allows you to get spell immunity whenever you duel. So not only do you have that thing where you can't deal damage, you can only deal damage to each other, you're also spell immune. Which, honestly, I don't think that's good enough for it. I think that is one of the worst Scepters in the game. Awful, awful Scepter. Hate it. Replace respawn talent with, it was at level 20, and has been changed by a plus 10% moment of courage proc chance. So your moment of courage is going to come up more often. Pretty cool idea. It's the basis of the hero, and honestly, when you get to the later parts, it's really important to have your moment of courage proc on those times to help kill the hero faster. And obviously, the lifesteal is huge. So I'm glad that they're buffing probably the most important level, probably the most important ability by level 20. Leshrac. Leshrak's Scepter has been reworked. While Pulse Nova is active, every 1.75 seconds, Lightning Storm will hit one random unit within AoE, within a 750 AoE. Prioritizes heroes. Really cool. Gives him a slow that's going to happen on top of his spell. He's not going to be as insane, just like straight blow people up with AoE spell magic, but he still does that already. So it's nice to have something that you can just run along the side and helps you utilize your spells in a better format. Lich has a Chain Frost slow increase, which it was 50 and now it is 65, so a bigger slow on Chain Frost. Also, Lena's respawn talent has been changed at level 15. It is now plus 40 move speed. I think that she's already pretty fast, and they're not really going to pick that up. I think that's not really the best one to give her, and the damage output is going to be better in general, so I would just always go damage output. Lion's talent got replaced with it was level 10, got replaced with plus 75 cast range. It's not that much cast range, but it is something, and it makes his spike go a little bit longer, so Aether Lens is kind of cool with it as well. You know, having that extra little scare to get people. I think it's a bad idea. I think they should make it at least 100, if not like 125, 150. Lone Druid. Lone Druid has rapid attack speed has been increased from 10, 20, 30, 40 to 20, 30, 40, 50. So a big buff giving more attack speed at every level, 10 more attack speed at every level. Rapid cooldown has been reduced from 45 seconds to 35 seconds. And rapid duration has been rescaled from 18, 22, 26, 30 to 25. So its cooldown is now 35, and its duration is 25. So it's about 10 seconds that you're not going to have rapid. Good, smart. The hero is probably going to come back a little bit after this, and it's good. It's good. And I like that they replaced the respawn talent, because that was the thing that was really dumb about the hero to begin with. So they replaced it with level 20. At level 20 you get plus 50% to Spirit Bear magic resistance. Makes way more sense. Makes his Spirit Bear build maybe more viable at that point. I still think that there's a lot of minus armor things that can give it serious problems, like Slardar. Slardar is a very serious problem versus him, things like that. So doesn't beat out the hero and the problems that he has with it, but at least gives him something. Luna. Luna's beam cast animation has been reduced from 0.6 to 0.5. Pretty cool. Really enjoy the movement on that. So it's not that big of a buff. Obviously, it's just a little thing here or there. They're changing everything to just happen a little bit quicker. The big windups are the things that I hate about heroes anyway. So Lycan's replaced respawn talent was at level 15. It is now plus 12 feral HP regen. So he already had a bunch of regen from feral, but he's going to get a lot more with this talent. Magnus has quite a few changes here. His movement speed has been reduced from 315 to 310. His scepter has a new mechanic to it. It's been completely reworked. Shockwave now comes back. So it goes out and comes straight back. When it hits units the second time, it applies a 60% slow for 2 seconds. So if you don't get out of the way, you're going to be slowed by it. And you're going to be stuck there for a little bit longer. Because 60% is no joke. The distance and travel speed are increased by 50%. It's going to go a lot faster, and it's going to go a lot further. Pretty cool, because it's already pretty far already. Actually, I'd go hella far. So that's really good. The return wave deals half damage to creeps. So you can't just spam it out to destroy creep wave in one hit. Makes sense. It's there for dealing damage and doing crazy things and, basically forcing heroes to be back or forcing heroes to kind of get out of position. I think it's really neat. You can use it to slow someone. If they get hit by the slow, you could jump out and then skewer them back. And the reverse polarity no longer lasts an extra time on creeps. So, makes sense. Also, the replaced level 25 talent that was the respawn talent was plus 500, is now plus 500 skewer range. Really cool. So if you can hit them with your backspin on your shockwave, you can then jump out, grab them, and pull them 500 units further in. Really easy to do. Fish and hook type hero. I hope they make a fisherman set for him. That'd be kind of cool. The thing about that skewer range too is that it actually goes 500 no matter where you click. So it goes an extra 500 even if so you don't have to like click a screen away. You don't have to like set everything up and then move all the way back and shoot really far. It just automatically goes to 500 range. Really, really, really neat. His other level 25 talent got changed up a little bit too. His shockwave cooldown got replaced by plus 15 armor. So either you can pull people in from further away, or you're going to be more tanky and exist longer in the team fight. however you want to generally play your Magnus. Medusa got a Scepter upgrade. So they added a Scepter upgrade for Medusa, and it's similar to the old style of how Medusa, I think it was a Scepter upgrade, or maybe it was just a key thing of her ability a long time ago from Dota 1. Causes Mystic Snake to turn enemies for 1 second, to turn enemies into stone for 1 second. Increases by 0.2 seconds per bounce. So obviously the guy that's hit with the snake at the end is going to be a stone for longer and is going to do more damage to him. Honestly, if it's stones and then you can stone someone and freeze them and then start your ultimate and it sets another stone timer, then that would be awesome. If it doesn't do that, it's not quite as strong, and actually you'd still get the slow off because they would be facing you anyway and you can start the slow walking up to them. Sounds really cool. It honestly sounds like the idea I would probably pick this up if I didn't need a BKB or I didn't need a what's the item? Lincoln Sphere. Lincoln Sphere would be something that I would pick up this item instead of that because it makes you tanky on all fronts. It gives you strength and mana and all that good stuff. But it still doesn't give you the damage that you need. You still need a lot of damage items to exist. I still think that the Scotty has a lot of potential in general, so I would not trade out too much for it. If you're going to try, I'd make it probably third big item that she gets, maybe second. It's not too crazy. Mirana's base damage has been increased by 3. Her Starstorm second impact its delay has been reduced from 1 to 0.8, so it comes down a little bit quicker. Leap's bonus, speed bonus has been reduced from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. So half as much time being up whenever you jump away, but the leap attack speed bonus has been increased from 8, 16, 24, 32 to 16, 32, 48, 64. Doubles the attack speed bonus at all levels. Crazy good. So jumping in is more likelihood than jumping away, because that's kind of what it was used for, right? A lot of times it was used as a way to get away from the fight, jump away if you had to, and move in. Now you can jump into a fight, give your whole team a bunch of attack speed, and take them down really quickly. Pretty cool. I'd still probably use it defensively, obviously, a lot of times, but I could see the potential of, really, I would never build her more than 1 in arrow at this point, and just max attack speed. I'm sorry, not attack speed. Max leap for sure after you max your Starstorm. Very, very good. I think that she should be picked. She's going to be coming out this patch. Base damage increase and all that. Oh, very strong. Her attack is one of the best in the game. So the base damage is something not to put in the back burner. Monkey King. Monkey King's Wukong command works completely differently now. Wukong command no longer provides 50 the bonus, all the bonus damage. The 50, 70, 90% or 90 bonus damage. Wukong command now provides you 8, 14, 20 bonus armor. So gives you armor instead of damage, and it gives you physically the armor, not the guys. So it takes away the damage, makes you a little bit more tanky. Wukong's command no longer copies Basher and Abyssal. So pretty crazy. Really, I think that this kind of kills support Monkey King in general. It makes you tankier, and you're not doing much damage, and you're not really zoning an area like you once were. So I don't like support Monkey King at all. And I'll get into how he can carry here in a minute. Wukong's command attack rate has been improved by 2 to 1.7. Fixed Monkey King's problems with Urn of Shadows, sometimes wasting charges while in Wukong command is ongoing. Fixed the tree jump, causing Monkey King to temporarily have bigger vision than defined for day and night values. some stuff that should have existed. Honestly, I think that he has the potential of being a carry because a lot of times carries have, I mean, they have things that make them really strong with items, and he had things that were really strong with items. Just his spells were generally good enough where he didn't necessarily have to have the items. And that's kind of the thing a lot of times with carries is that you have to have the items with some of their abilities because it doesn't really work out as much. Like Crystal Maiden is obviously someone that's, well, she doesn't have anything that really helps her auto attack anyway, and her spells don't get that insane. But it's something to keep in mind that he could go into a carry or an offlane position. I feel like I would actually put him in a carry position only if you're going versus another melee, and you can guarantee that you can just like push them out of lane with your Jingu mastery. So some thoughts there. I've had a lot of success on that in the past whenever I was playing that way. And obviously that was a different patch, but it was just last patch that I was trying it out, and he's still very strong versus the melee lineup to push people away and get plenty of farm for himself. Morphling has an adaptive strike rescale from its mana cost was 100, 90, 80, 70 to just 80 at all levels. So it's good to pick up once. It's pretty cool. Or, I mean, you can level it if you want to, obviously. Song of Siren. Naga Siren has been changed. Song of the Siren's cast time went from 0.8 to 1, so a longer wind up to be able to use her ultimate. Her Song of the Siren has been rescaled so that basically they added 20 minutes in the beginning and took 20 minutes away from the third ability, or added 20 minutes from the third ability, took 20 minutes away from the beginning ability. So 180, 120, 60 were the cooldowns before. Now it's 160, 120, 80. So it's not going to have that crazy comeback, well, not comeback mechanic, but that crazy mechanic of we just reset the fight constantly in the end of the game. It's still going to come up pretty often, just not as crazy. Song of the Siren's range has been rescaled. It was 1,250. Now it's just 1,000, 1,200, 1,400. So pretty cool. I like those changes. It's going to the change of it is going to probably give it's more of a setup for later, and it's also more of a save. It's just not as crazy of a save mechanic as it once was in the late game, because it's going to be coming up a little bit less often, but it's going to have a bigger range, so it's cool. Mirror image damage taken has been rescaled. It was 600, 500, 400, 300, and now it's 550, 500, 450, 400. So going to be taking more damage probably in general because no one kept it at level 1, and that's the only time where it's technically better. It's going to be worse as time goes on. So pretty crappy really for mirror image. And that's good because I hate Naga. Makes you burn. We have Riptide. Riptide's damage has been increased from 100, 140, 180, 220 to 120, 160, 200, 240. So basically 20 more damage at each level. Ensnare's cast point has been reduced from 0.65 to 0.6. So Ensnare's cast range that doesn't really matter that much. It's only 0.05 of a percent, or of a time. So really not that big a deal. Ensnare's mana cost has been rescaled to a straight 100. It was 90, 100, 110, 120. So I actually think that these changes definitely make her less viable as a core. We could be seeing Naga Siren as support again. You can get your illusions to stack more often. I for one think that I'm going to be playing her more as a support. She has a lot of potential. Her harassment potential is pretty great. Being able to do more damage with Riptide, push people out, keep them out of lane. She used to be very, very strong at that, and then when Shrines came out, it just kind of nullified the whole idea of harassment in general. So kind of kind of a nerf overall, obviously, but when nerfs happen, it forms a new way to play the hero. So I still think she's going to be strong at stacking and doing all the things that she used to do as a support, with obviously Ensnare being a little bit cheaper, so the lockdown of what a net can do is pretty awesome. Nature's Prophet. Nature's Prophet's respawn talent has been changed. It was level 25. Now it is remove teleportation cooldown. I feel like this is going to be in a video. I'm going to see like somebody doing like a troll face or something and being like, oh man, this is so much fun. And they're going to be like TPing around and playing silly Benny Hill music and things like that. So it's pretty funny. I don't think it's super crazy. I mean, it is pretty crazy that you can TP without ever having TP boots. You can basically just not have boots after that point and have a new slot. So that's kind of cool. Necrophos. Necrophos Shadow Ghost Shroud has heal amplification went from 50% to 75%. So all healing types when he's in Ghost Shroud is going to be more. So man, that's going to be insane. He's easily going to heal up to full whenever he kills a hero, and he's going to be super hard to kill. If you can get a mech on him, and he can Death Pulse, he's just going to heal so much instantly. Night Stalker. Night Stalker's Hunter of the Night can now be inactive during the night. So it's still what it was before, but it can now be activated during the night, and you get to flying movement for 2 seconds. So you can fly over something, kind of like a mini Force Staff. And its cooldown is 26, 22, 18, 14, and its mana cost is 50, and it provides 1,200 vision, flying vision, whenever he does it. Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. So he's just like the king of sight. He basically beats out freaking Coddle now. He is awesome. Oracle. Oracle's Fortune End is now a root rather than a slow. So it used to be a slow that set your movement speed to 0. The root mechanic is obviously much better. So big buff to him being able to have that. The respawn talent was level 10 and it added 0.75 seconds to Fortune's End's max duration, so it gives it a little bit longer duration. Honestly, I'd probably pick the other one. I don't think that's that crazy. Fortune's End isn't generally channeled the whole time anyway, and yeah, whatever. It's not that great. Fortune's End projectile speed has been decreased though, so it is 1,200. It was 1,200. It is now 1,000. So it's going to go at them slower, but it's going to be a bigger, better thing because it's actually going to root and keep them there. And purge. So a lot of availability there. The Purifying Flames cast range has been increased. It's 800. It was 800. Now it's 850. So a little bit further. All right. Getting near the end at the O's. My voice is giving out here, so hopefully it can last to the end. Outworld Devourer. Rework for him on his Scepter has been changed, and it's very good because his Scepter was worthless before. Grants 2 charges to Astral Imprisonment, and increases the cast range for Astral Imprisonment by 300. The damage on the area is stack, and it has a replenish time of 12 seconds. So it gets up faster, you have 2 charges, you have a further range to be able to do it. It's pretty cool. I still think that there's other items that are way more useful on him. I think that BKB, Pike, I know that BKB, Pike, all these items are going to be generally better for the hero to be able to do a lot of availability to him. It may be a 5th item, but I wouldn't go too far into that logic. He could be really good if you're needing to pay. It could be really good if you're needing Astral Imprisonment to just get people away. If you need it for like Legion Commander to just completely nullify Legion Commander from the fight or your teammate while you're fighting so that you can beat up the Legion Commander and give them easy duel damage, that's cool. You know, there's plenty of different things that you can do, and you could still imprison another person. A funny troll thing that you could do is you could imprison someone if you have Yules them right after, then imprison again, and then by that time you'll have 1 second to be able to imprison again. I actually got that idea from my brother. Pretty funny idea. I don't know how useful it would be, but you can technically put someone out for pretty much 16 seconds out of a fight. Pretty insane, but that's all using on that one person. You have to like micromanage that timer and things like that. So probably not the best. Could be really cool though. Phantom Lancer. Phantom Lancers fix doppelganger illusions, lasting 1 second less than they were intended, so it makes them a little bit better at that. Something that should have existed. Phantom Rush agility bonus now is granted before the first hit lands instead of after. Pretty important. So it's going to help them out there. The Juxtapose max illusions has been increased. It was 5, 7, 9. Now it's 6, 8, 10. So 1 at each level. Really not a good enough buff for someone who's so dependent on illusions, in my opinion. Fafnir had a little bit of a different opinion. I'm going to say that I think he still sucks. I think he's still worthless. Phoenix. Fire Spirit's duration, and that isn't Fire Spirit's lasting longer on the person. This is duration of the spell in general, has been increased. And it was 16 seconds, and now it is 20 seconds. His respawn talent is one of my favorites that was switched. He had a respawn talent at level 10. He now has a XP gain talent, which is crucial to Phoenix because Phoenix Egg sucks at level 1. And if you can get it to level 2 quicker and level 3 faster, it is a much better way for the hero. So not only is you can get your Midas, hopefully, you can get it gives more XP. You can also gain even more XP off the talent and kind of skyrocket from there, making a kind of a big buff to the hero in general. Pudge. Pudge has a replace talent. It was his level 20 talent of, obviously his respawn talent. It is now a +1 second to dismember duration. Really cool. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's another second longer to keep someone tied up, tied down, and it does that another instance of damage. So, can be a lot of damage for Pudge, because he gets those stacks up pretty high. Pugna. Pugna's life drain now gives true sight over the target. So you can be life draining a Ricky, and he's just going to be visible from now on. Kind of cool. Obviously, you can still get silenced and ruined that way, and it's still no better than like just having a dust on hand. Just can be useful in certain circumstances. Life Drain's cast range has been reduced. It was 1,050, and then 1,200. Now it's just a straight 800. But Life Drain now has a break of 100 range break buffer. So if you cast it at the max range, it's not just going to instantly break right then. It'll still work for 100 range. So much better on how the hero should have worked, and makes people who are newer with the hero and people who don't understand ranges a little bit easier to play the hero from now on. His replaced respawn talent was at level 15, and it's 1 more second on Decrepify. I actually don't really like this at all, because I would rather just have the cooldown reduction of your big blasty blast. Much better, really. Queen of Pain. Queen of Pain, her level 25 talent was crap. The no Shadow Strike cooldown was an awful, awful, awful talent, and I only saw it ever picked up to troll me. So, that's I'm glad that they changed it to this, because it is a 550 AoE Shadow Strike. Pretty cool. Lets it tick on people. Makes her the Queen of Pain that she truly is. Ba-da-bump. We also have Razor. Razor's got some changes here. His Eye of the Storm now prioritizes his static linked heroes, so it helps you kill down the person quicker. Kind of could be worse, because it's going to attack the hero that you're draining, and generally the drained hero is kind of crappy anyway, so I don't need his armor taken down. But it doesn't necessarily hit the little creeps that they spawn in general, unless you have a bunch of AoE that can take all those creeps out. It can be a problem for Razor. So at least it's hitting a hero, always. Eye of the Storm no longer has a cast point, so you can be running along and you can just hit it, which that's what Razor needs anyway. He shouldn't have had that mini step, and it's kind of silly that he did in the first place. So great Eye of the Storm buffs, pretty cool. I don't see it really helping him out of the hole that he's in right now. I love Razor and I love his potential. He still has a lot of things that he needs a little bit more buffs here and there to help him be the true terror that he once was. Ricky's base movement speed has been reduced by 5. Very important. This hero is all about movement speed, all about getting those last hits in where he can. He doesn't have a lot of slow, he doesn't have a lot of stun, so that movement speed at the very beginning is very important. Caustic Finale is no longer a unique attack modifier. Go crazy with those different combinations. Honestly, I don't think it's even that big of a deal. Unique attack modifier or not, you don't really do anything with Sand King's auto attack anyway, besides Caustic Finale. Sandstorm Invisibility, Linger Duration has been rescaled. It was 1.5 at all levels. Now it is 0.9, 1.1, 1.3, 1.5. So generally it's going to be worse at the lower levels, and it's going to be the same at the max level, making it more of a reason to actually level it. Sandstorm DPS has been rescaled. It was 25, 50, 75, 100. Now it's 40, 60, 80, 100. So it's actually better for damage at the earlier point. A lot better damage at the earlier point. But it just evens out to be the same thing as time goes on. Replaced Respawn Talent at level 15. It now gives him a minus 50 epicenter attack slow. So makes those heroes worse at hitting you whenever you got that ult off. Shadow Demon. Shadow Demon's got some cool buffs. Shadow Poison's mana cost has been reduced from 55 to 50. That's a huge deal for any spammable spell, which it is. So even though it's 5 mana, it's really nice. Soul Catcher now spreads its amplification evenly amongst all enemies in an AoE. And that's really good because a lot of times you would use it on one target anyway, so it still gives all the amplification on them. But if there's 2 people that you want to use on a team fight when creeps aren't around and you can hit 2 people, you can divvy it out, especially if you have a giant AoE magic team fight and you want to blow them both up with like Spectre and Zeus and things like that. You know, those big AoE magic team fights. Shadow Demon's actual replacement respawn talent was at level 20. Now it's minus 1.5 seconds Shadow Poison cooldown. Pretty cool, pretty cool. I think that it gives him something more to do if you pick that in a team fight. So if he's able to last, he has some availability to do some damage. I am a really big fan of using Shadow Demon as a core in mid. I don't think that this helps him that much. The Shadow Poison cooldown does help him out a lot, and you know, making the availability of not being able to just go to Shrine at first could be really, really useful if you use him as a core. In the very beginning, you can kind of use him versus like a Shadow Fiend and take out the potential of what, you know, just take out the potential of like a Shadow Fiend. Shadow Fiend's so crazy at being able to use all of his mana, and basically he had problems with harassment in the beginning of the game. That's kind of the whole thing about the hero. And when the shrines were available, he was one of the best heroes to take advantage of it. So, significant nerf to people like him. And significant buff to people like Shadow Demon mid and such. Shadow Fiend. Shadow Fiend's level 25 talent was plus 125 Shadow Raise damage. Now it is plus 150. Not that big a deal. Honestly, I think that the other one's still better. I wouldn't even go it. Shadow Shaman. Base damage hasn't been increased by 6 again. He's gonna hit he hits like a truck already. He's gonna hit like a spaceship. He's just gonna like run into people and just whoosh, have a giant backlash there. So pretty cool. I like it. I love Shadow Shaman mid, and I'm gonna preach it until the day I die, just because I love old Polywog Priest from Han. But it's just a huge buff to him. I love this ability, and I really hope people play him as a mid, or just play him more in general, because his harassment potential is insane now. As Fafnir was talking about before, with if you use the timing of creeps pulling from aggro of you attacking him attacking the off lane in general. The base damage has been increased by 6. Oh wait, I just said that. Jeez. Not having another player not having another person to talk to makes it the back and forth pretty crazy here. Sorry. So, Mass Serpent Ward's base attack range has been increased by 50, and his replace talent was level 20 for his respawn talent. It is now +4 wards summoned, so much more wards summoned. He's gonna have all the wards. They're gonna have more attack speed. They're gonna have more attack range. Sorry, and he's gonna hit like a truck whenever they're there. So he's just gonna have this massive tower push possible. Silencer has one of the coolest reworks I've seen for a scepter. His scepter gives glaives the ability to pierce spell immunity. Really good, because that's kind of one of the things that hurts him as a core, is that he can't use that whenever BKBs come up online, so he's not going to hit anywhere near as hard. Being able to pierce the spell immunity is insane, and I think that if you ever go core Silencer, Scepter has to be a priority at some point. It also deals, on top of all that, it deals 100% more damage to silenced units. So he hits crazy hard now and can really force people out of mid. I think Silencer is going to be the new mid for sure. He has a lot of damage potential, a lot of harassment potential. He can last hit like no one's business. If you can help him out and get some early game kills, get a few kills off the guy mid, lower their intelligence, and make him just win that lane super hard. I just can't get over the Silencer idea. It's so good. Skywrath Mage. His level 15 talent went from +75 damage to +10% lifesteal. Honestly, Skywrath Mage has a awful attack animation. It's like decent because it goes a long range, but I don't know. Lifesteal is kind of cool too. It's kind of crappy. I don't know. I kind of feel like the 75 damage is a little bit better, just because you can kind of oversaturate the idea and blow someone up with, okay, you do more damage and I do one more auto attack to finish you off, because you're gonna get the one auto attack at least. Whereas the Spell Amp, yeah, it's super cool, it keeps you alive, you can regain a lot of health, but you're generally going to blow someone up before you need to gain the health anyway. Though it is something I mean, you get spell lifesteal in general, so it's pretty fun to play around with that, and you could get like Dagons and things like that. I don't think Dagon would work out for him. Still could be cool. Slark's intelligence gain has been reduced from 1.9 to 1.7, so a little bit of a minus there. A little bit of a nerf. Spectre, big Spectre nerf here. Her Haunt cooldown has been rescaled from 140, 130, 120 to 180 at level 1, 150, 120. Crazy, 180. She has 3 minutes until she can ult again. She is truly the crappiest early game hero that has ever existed and will ever exist, I feel. Oh man. Oh, that is so horrible. Thing is though, she's still really good as a hero. It doesn't like cancel out a lot of else that she has. She has a lot of potential with getting into lanes. She has plenty of potential farming creep camps, doing a lot of stacks, having the availability of having radiance. So a lot of potential there. Not something that I would feel you should put too harsh of a backlash on her. She still has a lot of potential. Spirit Breaker has been replaced. His respawn talent was level 20. Now is at level 20. Now is a plus 30% greater bash damage. So he can do more damage. Obviously, that's not what the hero is there for. It's there for to set you up, get things started. So kind of a crappier idea, in my opinion. Actually, yeah, just a crappier idea. Not even my opinion, just crappier. I don't like it. Sven's God Strength, and now grants a bonus 16, 28, 40 strength when activated. God Strength's attack bonus has been reduced because of that, though. from 100, 150, from 100, 150, 200 to 80, 120, 160. So kind of a minus, but at the same time, it's giving you that big strength buff. So it's going to make you harder to kill, and it's going to multiply that strength out to a bigger effect. Honestly, I like it way, way better. Sven's going to be so much stronger with all the economy nerfs, all the things that happen. He's going to be a hero that can actually do the stacks. He's got this big availability to stay alive with this huge strength gain, and he has the armor, so massive armor, massive strength, and has the, I mean, God's strength that's still insane. It's still insane to have 80% more damage or 120 or even 160 more. It's not that much of a minus. Techies, they might as well go full troll whenever they upgrade techies, right? And they replaced his respawn talent at level 25 with 250 attack damage. They're like, you suck anyway, so we're going to give you a free rapier by the time the end of the game hits. Oh, I hate that hero. But it's pretty funny that they give him a free divine rapier because his auto attack sucks that bad. Templar Assassin. Templar Assassin's agility gain has been reduced from 2.7 to 2.3, so her agility is not quite as good. But they replaced her respawn talent. It was at level 25. Now it is a -8 meld armor reduction. Pretty neat. I actually really like this change. It lets her, you can go down the refraction path, be more tanky, get that availability, or if you just have to blow people up, or you're going up against a team that has so much dot that it doesn't matter how much refraction charges you have, grab up that meld, blow them up so that hopefully they don't get off that availability to tick down your refractions. So, interesting changes to her. A little bit of a nerf, but honestly, it's kind of a buff because you have stacking Ancients is way more valid again and way more valuable. Terrorblade, with all the illusion nerfs and everything, he's even getting nerfed himself. He's obviously, his illusions are going to get nerfed on damage whenever they're attacking towers, but he actually gets a movement speed loss, has been increased from 25 to 30 whenever he's in Metamorphosis. So he's a little bit slower in Metamorphosis, and his illusions aren't quite as push heavy as they once were before. Tidehunter. Tidehunter gets some cool things. Not only can he do, obviously, the stacks we've been talking about this whole time, Gush mana cost has been rescaled to, it was 120, now it's 90, 100, 110, 120. I would highly, highly, highly suggest picking up a level in Gush early. Having it at 90, 30 less mana is crazy good. So it's something that you should definitely look out for. You can pick up a Mango a little bit easier in the beginning. Very, very good. Something to look out for. Also, Aghanim's Gush now does a small ground reveal on units that are hit. So pretty cool. Has a reveal on Ags. Not something that I would still forcibly get, but it's something that kind of gives it a little more feel to what the Hero's Aghanims was. Really, the Hero's Aghanims is kind of crap in my opinion. Actually, it is crap. It's crap. And you could get, it would just be way better for you to get a, what is it? The recharge. You get the recharge item. Can't think right now. I've gone through 3 hours here, and some of it by myself. So 3 hours and 30 minutes. Whew. All right. So Tiny's base damage has been increased by 4. Not something too big, but something to consider. He can last hit a little bit better. It's nothing too crazy because he could already last hit like a madman. His grow now increases craggy and exterior chance by 6, 8, and 10%. So helps him out. Makes just a solid buff all around on that state. Still doesn't buff up his 2 main spells of being able to make his wombo combo, of being able to lay down all of his rocks and jump that guy up in the air. There's still plenty of ways to survive after it. So I think this just kind of makes Tiny more about his actual auto attacks than it does his spells. Treant Protector. Nature's Guise now does a full disarming root rather than a bash on attack. Horrible change to him. Basically, obviously he was picked up all the time in the last few tournaments, and they're just deciding, okay, the stun is too good. We need to pull something back on it. Makes him a lot worse now. I don't like Treant at all now. His replaced respawn talent was level 25. It was at level 25. Now it's a plus 40 leech seed damage and heal. So a lot more damage, a lot more heal, but it's only at level 25. And if you can get a Treant to level 25, congratulations. You're fully playing a turtle game, but it's not going to happen very often. Tusk's improved his consistency of ice shards when pushing units in/out of shards on impact. So it makes a lot more sense in general on how shards move and how they form. Shards now start at the cast location. So your actual little circle, your little U, is going to be where at the very top point where you click. It used to be where you clicked, the U formed around that area. So it makes a lot more sense now on where it's going to be. Also, its cast range is increased by 200, so further distance away, you can have crazy far formation range. The ice shards speed has, as a result, other change. Okay, so basically they're making it so that obviously it kind of pulls back some of the range on being able to have the ice shards form right in front of you, right where you're clicking. So the range increase kind of helps mitigate that and makes it a little bit longer. The ice shard speed has been increased. It was 1,100, now it's 1,200. Underlord. Underlord's atrophy aura damage reduction was rescaled. It was 4, 16, 28, 40. Now it is 7, 18, 28, 29, 40%. So it's rescaled basically so that it's better earlier on, and it's still the same by level 4. They nerfed it really hard into the ground, and they're kind of seeing that Underlord is just not a viable hero anymore, so they're trying to pull that idea back because it's the best thing about the hero. His atrophy aura now lingers through death, so what that means is that if he has a bunch of different kills, whether it's heroes or creeps, having that atrophy aura, if you die at the end of it, if you buy back, or you have any way of respawning back quicker, or just generally just having the ability to respawn and still have some of the availability if you lose a team fight, is pretty nice. Also, his Aghanim Scepter kind of comes into play at the same time. Underlord's Aghanim Scepter has an atrophy aura bonus damage is now granted to nearby allied heroes for half of the bonuses. So gives is King of Aura. And did I just lose out my... Okay. Looks like I lost out my Twitch stream. But, okay, show must go on. I think I'm okay. So we have an increased... Sorry for that weird throw there. Just everything turned off for a second. We have an increased bonus damage duration for 40 seconds. And that's how it plays into the atrophy aura damage. It is now going to last longer, and if you die, you're going to have that for 40 more seconds, not only giving it to the allies. So he's that AoE aura master that he always was, and is able to TP around and still do a lot of potential on the map. Plus, obviously, what I talked about earlier with the availability of Atos really gives him a lot of versatility at this point. Undying's has been replaced with his level 10 talent. His level 10 talent was a respawn talent, and they made it so much better. They gave him plus 15 health regen a second. Plus 15 at level 10. That is the ability to always have basic... Oh, I mean, it doesn't do damage, but it's basically having level 1 Doom ability on your hero to be able to have that regen as a level 1 talent. Level 1 talents suck. That is an amazing level 1 talent. I'm going to be picking Undying more. And especially with like contesting the lanes and maybe giving your off lane the potential of getting some last hits and getting some denies. Very, very good. Ursa. Ursa's base damage is reduced by 3, so it's going to be a little bit harder to go out into lane with the old Stout Shield, Oov, Orb of Venom, and some regen. It's going to be a little bit harder to do that. Vengeful Spirit. Vengeful Spirit. Wave of Terror cooldown has been rescaled from 20 to 22, 20, 18, 16. So better over time. Her Vengeance Aura has been reduced though, and it's basically 2% at all levels. It was 12, 20, 28, 36. Now it's 10, 18, 26, 34. So 2% less damage at all levels. Venomancer. Venomancer's respawn talent has been changed to 14% slow on Poison Sting. Pretty crazy actually, because now he has 2 Poison Stings, right? So it's technically a plus 28 movement speed slow. Pretty insane. Pretty insane. I like that style than having a sacrificial Venomancer that's cool about diving and using his ult all the time. So much cooler, and so much more hero specific as well. Viper. Viper Strike now deals damage on the first tick. First tick of damage immediately, so you can't just blink away when he Viper Strikes you. So much better. It should definitely work that way. Viper Strike cooldown has been rescaled 70, 50, 30 to 60, 45, 30. So it's going to make him more of a terror in the early game. Obviously, he's one of the best at lane control and keeping his presence there. So you may see him picked up a little bit more often, may be able to harass people out, keep them away from their shrine, and hopefully get a kill or 2. While denying plenty, and I mean, he guarantees himself last hits, which is great to have, especially when they're focusing on denies versus you. Visage. Visage is someone that a lot of my friends play, a lot of people that I know play, so I'm going to use some of their advice that they gave me on him. Grave Chill duration has been increased. It was 3, 4, 5, 6, and now it's 3.25, 4.5, 5.75, and 7 for its duration. So a little bit longer at all levels, just a tiny bit, not that much. I mean, 1 second longer by the end, so could be something useful. His respawn talent has been changed though, which is pretty cool. It's now Soul Assumption Double Strike, and I was confused when I first heard those words too, but what this means is it hits the target and then it hits a random second target within the cast range, and it prioritizes heroes. So you're going to be getting twice the worth out of it whenever you could get this up and running. And I have a lot of people that play Visage mid. They say his potential is insane right now for what he can do. And I believe it. I believe it. This hero is very good in their hands, and I strongly suggest trying it out if you have any inkling to play Visage in general. We also have Warlock. Warlock's Chaotic Offering mana cost has been increased from 200, 300, 400 to 250, 350, and 450. So basically 50 more mana at all levels. His respawn talent has been replaced with his level. It was at level 20 with a Summon a Golem on Death. I hope it stuns. I think it stuns. I haven't actually given it a try yet because I've been trying to get this up after everything and try to get this information out to you guys as soon as I could. So I wasn't able to actually try it out yet, but it sounds pretty awesome and obviously way more cooler than respawning quicker. Windranger. Windranger's level 20 talent now grants. Okay, they changed both of them. So they changed both of her talents at level 20 and both of her talents at level 25. And both of her talents at level 20 are now Windrun grants invisibility and plus 120 power shot damage. And our level 25 is a 30% cooldown reduction or 150 attack range. Pretty pretty good. I actually saw a little meme online. I think it was by No Tail. I was someone, and it was Wind Ranger. Wind Ranger was like talking to Weaver and saying, "I'm the Weaver now." Pretty funny. It's pretty cool that she gets invis and attacks miss her in general whenever she uses Wind Run after that point. It's honestly, I don't know. Power Shot's pretty good too, getting that extra damage. So tell me what you think on that. If you write in the comments or something, because she's one I'm stumped on. There could be a lot of potential with her. Winter Wyvern. Winter Wyvern's winter attack speed has been changed. It was 70 more attack speed to the guys who are going to attack the target, and it is now 85 attack speed, bonus attack speed. We also have a replace talent. He was at level 20. He had a respawn talent, and now it's 1 more second on cold embrace duration. Pretty poopy. Pretty poopy. I don't like that at all. That is one of the ones that are very bad. Scepter now additionally provides True Strike on Witch Doctor. Insane. Insane. He has all these bounces and they provide True Strike. That's like the only thing that was keeping Witch Doctor at bay, and now he's just going to be the terror. Oh man, I'm just going to like play Witch Doctor and play the good luck or have fun, good luck. It's like it's written really weird, but this guy who does the Witch Doctor song, I'm just going to play that on repeat and play Witch Doctor now, because that is awesome. He also, his replace talent was at level 15, and it is +2 more cast bounces. So technically you could get 11 bounces, because it bounces on the first one, it hits the first one, and then it bounces 10 times. So, pretty awesome. Lock people out for a long time if they place it in the wrong place. Alright, we got 2 more left. So let's get through these real quick. Alright, so some of the cooler ones, some of the ones that people are freaking out. I don't really think they're very good though. Wraith King's level 20 talent has been changed, and it went from Vampiric, it was, sorry, it's got something in my way. So level 20 talent went from +20 strength to +10 Vampiric Aura Lifesteal. And then his level 25 talent was +25%, +20% Vampiric Aura Lifesteal. But it has now been changed to Reincarnation cast Wraith Fire Blast. But it is half the speed, it replaces the slow, and it is fired at half the projectile speed. So it's like a mini slow Ravage that kind of goes out from him whenever it stuns. I think it's actually worse, because you can blink out of the slow to begin with, and you can now blink out of the stun pretty easily. So don't think it's worth it. It's okay. Like, I mean, I guess if they kill you immediately as they're TPing, it could be kind of cool, but that's not going to happen that often. I think the slow is generally better, so you just go down the other path. Alright, and then last but not least, we have Zeus with his respawn talent has been changed. It was at level 20. Now it is a +0.5 second lightning bolt mini stun. So basically stuns for 1 full second when you stun someone with a lightning bolt. Interesting, nothing to write home about. I think the items were more of a buff to Zeus in general. So, you know, I just say feel it out. Understand that he's going to be better through the items, not through his abilities. All right, so we have been going on for about 3 hours and 40 minutes. So all good things must end. My voice is going to give up on me here in a second, so I gotta close out. I can't talk anymore. Doing this by myself was not the best. So we are going to go into the end here. If you guys want to help us out at all, you can subscribe or like any of our videos. You can go to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/toffees_dota2. You go to our YouTube channel if you want to go there to like or subscribe, obviously, at 5 Gaming. Or you can, all one word. Or you can go to our podcasts if you would rather listen to them and listen to my sweet voice instead of seeing my ugly mug. You can go to them and find them on Stitcher, iTunes, or SoundCloud. You can go and give to our Patreon if you're feeling extra generous by going to www.patreon.com/toffees. If you have any questions for me or Toffees, you can follow Toffees at Toffees TV. You can follow me at my Twitter at FlubDota. Also, Kimbrel. Kimbrel's generally my other co-host, and he wasn't here to make it tonight. But if you want to complain to Kimbrel, you can always follow him at skimbrel_. And you can go to, if you want to, you can write me an email about any changes that you feel like I missed, anything that I should have mentioned in this update. And you can mention me to them at crazyflub@gmail.com. Well, this was supposed to be Brewmaster's draft because it was with people. It ended up kind of being a flub date, a super long flub date at that. So it's a Flubmaster. But I'm glad to have you guys here with me today, and it was great to hash this out and talk with people in the very beginning. If you want, you can always catch my shows on Fridays, or you can catch them on Sundays, and I will always tweet out the times. Generally, they're going to be Fridays at 4:30 and Sundays at 9 or 9:30, depending on whether tournaments are happening or not. It was great having you guys here. Catch you later. Bye.